Will operates most of everything.
It's okay, Alenka. You just get to be. You're the talent. You're the talent. Like
I literally.
it's all around. It's all around you and what you haven't seen. You know.
It's a talent. It's a talent of ignorance. That's what it is.
I know. You're welcome, world.
What's that movie that a holiday hit? Don't ask Alenka, she'll say I haven't seen it.
Welcome to the Haven't Seen It podcast. This is a podcast where we bring people on the show and we get them really drunk and tell them about a movie that I've never seen before. I'm Alenka Zach.
And I'm Holiday Will.
Stop it, Will. You are nothing and no one, and nothing good will ever come from what you just said. Well, I'm just curious, Will. Do you just lie in bed and you think like, how can I piss Alenka off the most tonight? This is how.
Yeah, it's very clear. It's very clear from these openings that I think about this the night before. That's why they're so good.
Honestly, I swear to God, you've said this one before. And I again said,
I probably did. I don't remember much.
Are you ashamed of your name?
Am I ashamed of my name?
Yeah. Why can't you just be Will?
No, because I just added on to it for fun. I can't just be Will.
Well, let me tell you something. Nobody's having fun. Not me. Not
Okay.
you. No one listening. All right.
Great. I guess we should just end this episode now.
I always appreciate you being my
You know what?
punching bag.
I'm gonna be just as sad as our main character in this movie all night now because of this.
I can't wait, but also that's a lie. No, you won't. I don't know who he is. I can't hold it in anymore, Will. I can't.
Oh, I know. Well, we're not gonna hold it in, and it looks like she can't hold it in either. Our guest today is an old friend of mine.
New friend of mine.
And producer. New friend of like a theater artist, producer at the Search for Blue Theater in London, England, all the way from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. We have Mollie Garret.
Yay! Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
thanks
for coming on.
No, I'm so excited and just pleased to be here. Can't wait.
We love having you here with your sparkly shirt and your
Oh yes, I'm excited. And I said this perhaps off the record, but maybe on the record. Will always cheaps me out or messes me up. It's fine. Guys, Mollie literally looks like the spirit of Christmas. I think that's the best way to describe it. The spirit of Christmas. She is joy. She is grace. She is Miss United States. What is that? I know that's from something.
That's Miss Congeniality.
Boys,
another classic
grace.
Movie.
See, I've seen that. Jeez. All those things wrapped in a red ribbon, you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome, everyone.
I mean, we did mention how sad I'm going to be.
Yeah, I don't
Just
get
like our
that
main character.
because
You will.
you will.
Get ready. It's a ride.
I'm not.
It's an
ready,
emotional
I'm not gonna
ride.
lie. I didn't
right.
think it would be.
What are we talking about, Malika?
Me? We're talking about, if
Yeah.
I'm correct, It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Oh,
A
thank
Wonderful
God.
Life indeed.
Whoop. Had to double check before it came on.
Christmas classic with capital C's all
Is it?
around.
Merry Christmas. Now,
Okay.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
By the time this episode releases, it's going to be Christmas week.
Oh my God,
And
that's
it's
very
going to be a
exciting.
day before our dear Mollie's birthday.
It is. I am
Oh
a
my
Christmas
God,
baby.
Shut the fuck up. You are?
Yeah.
This makes so
I
much
am
sense.
indeed.
This makes
Not like
so...
Jesus, a few days before
I mean,
Jesus.
yeah, okay. I don't like share the day.
Jesus.
But I'm the 23rd, so right up there, cutting it close.
Mhm.
But yes, It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Is it?
So it kind of seems self-explanatory why you chose this movie.
Is it?
Because,
Me.
yeah. I mean,
It's
you're
not.
just-
Well,
you're
okay.
full out Christmas.
Yes. So this is absolutely my favorite Christmas movie. I watch it yearly. It has become
amazing.
very much a part of my own just tradition of Christmas. But even in rewatching it for this podcast, I just watching it, I was like, you know what? I think this is just my favorite movie, full stop. Like Christmas or not, this is my favorite movie, full stop. It's definitely a desert island movie for me. If I could only watch one for the rest of my life, this is it. It's a Wonderful Life. for sure.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Come on. What?
No, it's true.
Okay.
It is right up there for me.
Wow. Why though?
I don't know. Just the story. It takes place at Christmas, which, as we've discussed, I'm a big fan.
She likes it.
But even more than that, I think the story is, there's something intrinsically human about the story. I think that the director, like Frank Capra, at one point said that it's a story sort of about the plight of normal life, but also about the joys of normal life. And I love that. The acting, I mean, it's got my main man, Jimmy Stewart, who I adore.
I thought Cary Grant was in this movie.
Well, I mean, I have is it too early for fun facts, or
maybe?
No,
I don't
let's
know.
drop the first fun fact right now.
I'm excited.
First fun fact: Cary Grant was supposed to be our Mr. George Bailey. He was the early cast for it.
I knew it.
In one of the first drafts of the script before Frank Capra got the rights and was sort of commissioned to do it. But he ended up instead doing, I can't remember what it's called, but he's in a different Christmas movie that he ended up being in.
And it not being well known, hence not knowing.
And it not being It's a Wonderful Life. So, you know, who's the real winner?
Now, this is like, so it is a Christmas movie, but not, it is, but it isn't. It is.
I don't think it's overbearing on the Christmas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's not a lot of Christmas in it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like the last half hour.
Yeah, even like
Christmas
for a 2-hour Christmas movie, I'm lacking Christmas in this movie
for sure.
But there is holiday spirit in general
throughout. I mean, you know, it's just it's wonderful. You know,
I'm very nervous.
It truly is. Very nervous.
I have no fucking clue what I'm getting into. And that terrifies me.
I know you like. I want to know what you know about this movie, Alenka, because whenever you don't know anything about a movie, it makes for the best synopses.
Yeah.
Okay,
absolutely.
this is truly not going to be great though, because I'm envisioning Cary Grant. So Cary Grant in a trench coat and a fedora, walking down the streets of New York, probably like a telephone post of some kind with a little tinsel poo ribbon on top. You know what I mean? You know the lights I'm talking about.
I'm there.
We all
set the scene.
Can see it.
Silver
and
bells.
Maybe not
Christmas
full
time in the
snow.
city.
Yeah, but that's slushy kind of snow. And you know, if I read the footnotes of Will's what's it called with the tables? The movie and the tables? The Excel spreadsheet?
Our Excel, our Google
sheet. If I
sheet,
read the hashtags correct, this is a romance holiday movie.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
maybe I read the wrong ones. It's fine.
I mean, no, it is. I would say it's a romance in that classic old school holiday or Hollywood way.
Mm-hmm.
Where what? Like nobody was really interested in anybody, but they ended up together somehow.
No. In that it's not a romance the same way that The Holiday is, for instance, which I know you've recently discussed.
Yes, that is on
two peoples fall in love. No, I remember. It's fine. 4 people.
Yeah, so like that one is very much 4 peoples technically.
Yeah.
That one's very much a holiday movie centered around traditional rom-com love stories. And It's a Wonderful Life absolutely has a big love story in it that's very endearing and tender and all of those things. But it's not the driving. No. It's not what's driving the movie.
Yeah.
Here's what's driving the movie. Somebody has a brain tumor or something. You get your cat butt out of here. Somebody is ill. And Cary Grant is like, oh my God, this person's not going to make it to Christmas. And he's moping. He's upset. He's spaghetti about it. And truly, he's kind of just going through life like meh. But then he sees, I don't know, Katharine Hepburn. They're in a different movie together, I'm pretty sure. And he's like, wow, fantastic shoulder pads. And she's like, these aren't pads, baby. And you know, she just shows him the true meaning of living life to the absolute fullest. And then, you know, they have Christmas and everyone's fine. And the person lived through Christmas and they were happy. And they were like, you know what? Yeah. It is a wonderful life. Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn.
Truly.
What do they look like? I'm literally only going to think of Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. Sorry.
They look basically like that too.
I mean, I was going to say, I mean, that's, you know,
what
all
they looked like.
Old white actors from the 40s in
like,
black and white movies look the same.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean all women in the 40s back then looked like Queen Elizabeth. That's just the look.
That's everyone had the victory roll. Everyone's got the like very sharp jawline. Oh, sharp shoulders.
I don't know what it is about Katharine Hepburn, but she has the sharpest shoulders. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay,
like
good.
she was bringing those shoulder pads in before
you
it
could
was
cut someone's lip with that shoulder.
Yeah.
That's a reference to this movie.
Really?
It is indeed.
And to the name of our drink with you guys don't know yet.
Right. Can you tell us, I guess?
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
Yes. Well, tonight we're drinking what I'm going to call Bloody Bailey Lip.
Okay. I don't get it.
Now, you will eventually by the end of this movie.
All right.
That's the reference to the movie
promise?
name. But the drink is basically just mulled wine. Heavy on the cinnamon.
How do you make it?
Light on the cloves.
Light on the cloves.
I don't get it.
You will. In about 3 hours. No, I'm kidding.
We're going to go for longer than the runtime of the movie.
Well, yes, that brings us to the monumental moment.
Oh,
Molly.
Yeah.
How does this movie start?
Yeah. Well, if you have the classic VHS, which I did until 24 hours ago, it begins with the producing company Liberty Films big bell ringing in the Christmas spirit. And then, if I'm not mistaken, it immediately pans out to space, right?
What?
Yeah, I actually want to make note of the really, I just like
movie?
love old movie credits.
It is.
Yeah, it's a space movie. Yeah,
it's a space movie.
Amazing.
Fun fact: it's a sci-fi.
Yeah,
Christmas
it really
movie from the
transcends
40s.
all genres.
I'm excited.
But I want to point out, I love old movie credits.
Oh, me too. Oh, no, I'm wrong.
Cool.
It pans out to the storybook.
Yeah, it's a storybook, and they're pulling off pages of all the credits, like custom made.
Yes, everyone's name is like beautifully calligraphy written in. They flip through it. Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. Also, old movie credits, like all the credits are at the top rather than the end.
Yeah,
so,
and then they're also at the end. So, you know, you just get to sit through it twice.
Double the fun. Yeah.
Well, second time's optional.
That's right. Sometimes optional.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we pan out and there's a storybook. My mistake, and it introduces everyone who worked tirelessly on this classic.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to all of you.
Probably all dead, but
probably all dead. And then it's space immediately with
so weird.
I'm presuming God.
Yeah, it's
and then another angel.
It's God, and then the angel Joseph, right?
Joseph, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's Angel Joseph, and it's brilliantly executed cinematically. It's just a black image with lights and a little sort of solar system that every time they're speaking light up, kind of like if you've ever seen an original Peter Pan where they've got Tinkerbell as a reflected mirror on the wall. It's kind of like that. Just the light flickers and that they're talking.
Yeah, it's really cool. Actually, so prior to that, like the reason we pan up is because we see all these houses and there's prayers. People are praying like, "Oh, please help Father. Something's going on with him.
Help George Bailey. That's
help George Bailey." Everyone's praying for George Bailey.
George Bailey.
For some reason.
He's the one in the coma.
You guys, I think this is horrendously embarrassing. I watched this not only every year of my life, but literally today.
But like,
And I have
also will
already
say-
forgotten how it opened.
That's not important. We just know that these
George
angels are
Bailey.
meeting and being like, yeah.
George
He's in a
Oh,
coma.
George
Yes,
Bailey.
right?
What
He
a
is.
name.
Yes.
George Bailey.
No, he's not in a tumor induced, or sorry, he's not in a coma induced because of a tumor.
No, but he's in a
He's-
coma.
Well,
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll get there.
He's sleeping.
But they're
He's
all,
in a way.
I'm not sure if
Hmm.
God is there or if it's two older angels, because they really introduce the this is like Catholicism, right? Like levels
Oh,
of
I can tell
angels. You know this shit,
Yeah.
Olenka. Yeah.
But then they also
Sure.
introduced space, which in watching it today, I was a bit like, that's very, very modern
Yeah,
of
they're up
you.
in space. Yeah.
Like, oh, because you literally watch like Saturn
Wait, you can have
just
space
rotate
and
by. And I was like, oh, so we're
angels?
acknowledging
No.
there's planets.
Well,
yeah,
God
that's where the
made
angels live in
planets.
space.
In the heavens.
They're in the
yeah.
clouds.
In the heavens.
All right.
Theater term in the gods.
In the gods.
They're in the gods.
So they're like, we got to help this Bailey bro.
Bailey
And
bro.
they're like, they get Clarence to help them.
Yeah, so they
They're
bring in
like-
this younger angel
The
because it's
fuck is
his
with these
turn.
Angels.
So there's two older angels, and then they're talking, and they're like, "Oh, there's this man who everyone's praying for, and we need to send someone down to help him." And so they say, "Oh, well, whose turn is it?" And it's Clarence's turn. And you quickly learn that Clarence is a young angel who's like a bit bumbly, makes a couple mistakes, and he's having a hard time getting
Like
his
me.
wings
Yeah.
to become a better angel.
He's a level 2 angel. He's
Second
also
class.
200 years old. So
Little
he was a
baby
former
boy.
clockmaker.
Little baby
Yeah.
boy
Excuse me?
Clarence, yeah.
Yeah.
What? How do you climb the angel ladder to archangel?
By helping people, apparently.
Yeah. You also kind of have to sleep around a bit. And
Satan's
you
an
know,
angel.
sometimes
That's what I know.
That's true.
Sometimes you got to mule drugs for the other angels, but no.
Well,
You just
please
gotta
don't
do what's required
speak
to get those
about
wings,
my
get that first class.
religion that way. Don't make fun of it like that.
Oh, okay. I won't. I promise. You.
Right.
Not in the time of Jesus.
I
The time
guess.
of our Lord.
It's Christmas time, you guys. That's what it is.
Ugh.
It
Merry
is.
Christmas.
Go
Okay.
on.
It is.
So,
So,
Carlisle,
those are our
or
principal
whatever
players
his
right
name
now.
is. Clarence. Clarence.
Clarence. Cute little
Yeah.
Clarence.
But they're like, you have
Cute
to know
Claire.
this man. We have to show you this man first. So they basically do like we're gonna watch George's life up until this very moment of like
When you
people
need
praying
That's
help
for
actually
him.
really interesting.
Yeah, when you need to help him.
That makes so much
so
sense.
you get
so
the
they're like-
lifetime
So, yeah,
movie of George
World.
Bailey.
They like go back in time. And we first see George
love it.
Bailey as a young boy.
Oh,
Bye.
And they live in Bedford Falls, which is like, you got the state right. It's in New York, not New York City, but it's in the state of New York.
well,
New
that's where it
Yuck.
is.
Yeah.
So yeah, they live in a
I
small
know.
town, Bedford Falls, and we zoom in on George Bailey, 12 years old, and he's tobogganing or sledding down a hill across like a
Mhm.
little frozen pond. And I have to say, I've always
no.
grown up watching this scene thinking that it looked super fun because they're sledding down on a literal shovel. Like it's a metal shovel that you would use for gardening.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
And they just stick it so that the like handle part is going up in front of them, and they just ride that down. And I mean, if you don't have a sled because it's 1908, like go for it. That sounds
Exactly.
great.
What?
What else you gonna do?
Wow. Have
But,
you tried
yeah, so they
this?
sled down. I don't know how much. I haven't. I want to. Maybe
No,
this is the
sounds
year.
Have you not
extremely
tried
dangerous,
this?
But
Because I grew up in the 90s when we had toboggans. Like,
Yeah, but
we had
I'd still
razor
try
fast
it.
GTs.
Be like, I saw
I know.
a shovel being used. I want to try. Get it
Maybe this
together,
is my
Molly.
year. We'll get enough
Yes.
snow and I'll go out there with my shovel and find a hill.
Yes.
I don't know how much like detail you want in this.
No, well, so basically
This
they were
recap.
tobogganing. He's tobogganing with his little brother Harry,
Oh.
and Harry,
Getting all emotional.
they like he like falls
What happened? Oh,
through
no.
the ice,
Yikes.
and he saves him. He saves his little brother.
Yeah, so George goes into the water and saves him. And what's important there is that because of it, he catches a cold
Oh.
and loses hearing in one of his ears.
Oh.
So he has a bad
Yikes.
ear for the rest of
Yeah.
his life.
Oh, come on.
And that's
And it's
the
funny
movie.
when the angels are like, "We're gonna watch his life." It's almost like they're like telling the audience, "We're gonna watch these things that are gonna be very important to think about later when you meet George.
Right.
So let's go to all these
literally say that.
moments.
They literally landmark what you need to remember.
Yeah. Just remember.
They're like,
This
oh,
movie's
look,
made
watch
for you,
this
Alenka.
part.
Okay.
And so then from there, we speed forward a little bit and we show George, still child George Bailey at his job. And he's a
full-grown
little
adult job.
shopkeep boy at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
And this is where we're introduced to the original, in my mind, the original blonde versus brunette, Betty versus Veronica, Violet versus Mary.
Yes.
I don't know that.
Heads up, Alenka, we are
Violet
all
versus
team
Mary.
Mary.
Who's Mary? She's the brunette, right?
She is the brunette.
Knew it.
Knew it.
Donna Reed. And then Violet, who's the blonde.
Who's the
They're
blonde?
I would
they're
have thought
competing
the
for his
opposite
affection.
based off the names.
Yeah. That's a fair
Mary does seem like a blonde
They
name
fucked
assumption,
sometimes. Yeah.
but not in this case.
No.
So George works at the pharmacy, and Violet's very flirty, even at like all of the age of, I don't know, 12.
Oh yeah, they're acting like they're 25. these
Yeah, like-
kids.
Promiscuous. Really?
Like he throws the fucking cloth on his shoulder and like over the counter.
like, what do you want?
Like, yeah, what do you want?
Wow.
What can I
It's
get
like-
ya?
You're 10. You're all 10.
And then
10-year-olds don't know how to
I don't
be
know.
that
Violet
way.
leaves, and yeah, exactly.
Where did they learn that?
No idea. So
it was
strange.
the 1890s or 90s, hundreds or whatever it was.
I think this is
Exactly.
1920.
It was a different time.
1920s.
Kids were
It's-
sexier back
Yeah, I
then.
think
kids.
it's right before 1920, because I know he's like the next sort of section we jump to is 1928.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so he's working at this pharmacy. He's like serving up the ice cream to the ladies.
So
And in another Angel landmark important, he sees a telegram because his boss is really crotchety and upset and like crying in every frame, just like silently in the corner.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
And he sees a telegram, and the telegram says that the son of the pharmacists has gone missing or has been declared dead in World War I.
Yikes.
Essentially. So he's received this news and is very upset.
Yeah.
Then
And so he goes back there and he's all crotchety and he's like, you got to run this order of pills to Mrs. What's her face.
yes.
Perfect.
And it's very funny, not funny, but it's very like he sees the pills and he looks at like a bottle.
Oh
of the
my god,
same
yeah,
pills,
the way
and
it's shot is really
yeah.
funny.
And it's
Wait,
just
what
labeled
happens?
poison.
So it's literally in frame. You've got the camera and you're looking at little child George Bailey behind a desk, and he's holding a bottle of pills and he's looking at the pills, and then he looks to sort of his right, and there's a tall bottle in front of him, sort of downstage of him, that just says poison.
Why?
Huge writing.
Because when you want to label your poison, you label it poison.
So
Why is he
back in
looking
the
at
day,
poison though?
well, it's because back in the day, pharmacists would actually make pills. So if you've ever had like an Advil or a Tylenol that you can split apart and you can see like the little powder inside,
Yeah.
all pills used to be like that. Pharmacists used to like make them with their voodoo pharmacy magic.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the pharmacist was so upset by learning that his son has died in World War I that he has accidentally put poison in the pills. And then the other hilarious...
My God.
You can't blame him. You know,
You
it's not like
can't.
there's
He's
a big
very upset.
It's only
poison
labeled.
label on the front of this damn.
It's only
bottle.
The label's
size
facing the
50,
kid, not him.
Yeah.
full bold. But the other sort of funny movie, I don't know, like cinematography moment is, so he looks at the bottle, looks at the poison, and then the camera just pans and zooms in with a light on a poster that says, "Ask Dad, he'll know what to do." And it means like, it was like an ad for, I don't know, just like cars or something, like ask your dad how to fix a car. But it was just like,
What
ask Dad,
the
he'll know what to do.
fuck?
And so
This is
George
so
Bailey
absurd.
picks up the bottle and runs.
Yeah, he
full
just like runs
tilt.
out.
I love
But
this
not
time in
before.
filmmaking. It is magic.
Yeah.
But not before. So Violet actually leaves earlier, and then
Oh, I forgot.
And George is like getting some ice cream stuff ready for Mary. And then Mary like leans over and is like, this is the ear you can't hear out of, right? I'm going to love you forever, George Bailey. Like into his bad ear.
It's a lot sweeter than Will just described it.
It is.
But if we're just looking at the facts, that is what happens.
That's accurate. Into his bad ear.
It's creepy. If I whispered, I'm going to murder you into your bad ear.
I will not let you ruin this movie for me. This movie will not be ruined.
Usually Alenka ruins the movies by pointing out the logical flaws.
It's fine. Continue on. Go on. Kids are
no,
go
what?
on. I forget already.
Okay.
Kids are sexy.
No. It was a sweet moment.
It was
not a
sweet.
sexy moment yet.
Not yet. We're not there yet.
Don't. They can't have sex. It's not appropriate until the 90s.
The 40s.
Just hold hands aggressively.
Sex wasn't invented yet.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't come on the scene until Elvis is alive.
It's the baby boom. That's his invention.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So he's running down the street and he runs to a very endearing place to my heart. The Bailey Bros Building and Loan.
What is that?
Which is where his dad works. So
his father owns it with his brother. So him and his father and his uncle own it. And it's basically like a loan agency. Like they give out loans for houses, the mortgages, things like that.
I don't understand finance, so I can't really speak to what it does.
I don't understand it all that much either. Alenka,
I don't know. I've never used a loan, which has been
They give out money.
OSAP, I use that.
And they build houses.
Yes.
And
they're property management and loan sharks.
Yeah.
They are fucking
that's all I know about it.
But they're good ones. They are good people.
But they do it with heart.
Do they?
They're good people.
So
they're good in the community. They do. So they're broke.
Yes.
No, actually. And do you know what, Alenka? That is a major part of the movie.
Yeah, obviously.
That is like the that's the major conflict.
That is the crux. You have hit upon the crux of the film.
Yeah, very obviously. If they're good loners, they are broke.
They are. They really are.
You need to be a terrible person to loan money.
Another sort of cinematic moment. I will say, like something as much as we laugh because it feels very signposty now. Part of, in my opinion, Frank Capra's direction that makes it a classic and makes it a movie that a lot of filmmakers point to is he films it and shows you everything you need to see. And so at some point in like the little bit we were talking about with the pharmacy and the kids like walking down the street, you see a big carriage pass and it looks very fancy. And you're introduced to the villain, who is Mr. Henry Potter. And
Harry
so he's very rich.
Yeah,
Harry Potter.
Yes. Henry Potter.
I was thinking that I'm watching it and like the carriage just has a huge HB and I was like, Harry Potter?
Harry Potter?
So you're introduced to Henry Potter. And he runs up to Building and Loan and Potter's carriage is sat outside. So his dad is in there having a very aggressive, I guess, conversation with Mr. Potter about money.
Oh,
I don't even remember what they're arguing about. Probably just the fact that the Baileys are broke.
Yeah.
And so he
basically Henry wants to own the whole town, and basically Bailey loan and mortgage and loan, building and loan is the only place that like he doesn't own at this point.
Got you.
Or is the only business that is also like building houses for people, and
is like completely independent of him. Like they don't even go to him when they are in a bind. They're like, no, we want nothing to do with Potter. We will not go groveling to Potter. It's not a thing.
Potter.
Potter.
Yeah.
Got you. This guy's the Mogul of Mogul, New York.
Mogul.
Mogul
is.
Yeah, he's the Donald
New York
Trump
Mogul.
He really, really is. And another fun fact, played by
Donald Trump
Lionel Barrymore.
Was cast originally.
Yeah, Donald Trump was the original actor picked for this role. He just couldn't do it because he wasn't alive.
Yeah. But he was seriously being thought about.
Being considered. He was the inspiration for the character. You could say. But yeah, no, it's played by Lionel Barrymore, Drew Barrymore's grandfather.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, who started the Barrymore acting dynasty, you could say.
Yeah, of
Dynasty.
course. Nobody just gets in when they're normal. Gotta have your mom or dad or grandpa.
It was really,
it's true,
really casual. It was like really fought to be there,
Yeah. So he's insulting Bailey. He's insulting George's dad, and George is like, "You can't talk to my father that way. He's the best man in the world."
Literally says that.
Yeah,
he talks that fast.
No, he only talks that fast because I watched this movie double time.
But I feel like they did talk faster back then.
They did. They do talk very fast sometimes.
Oh, not Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart's like,
oh yeah, he is a slow talker. Actually.
Oh,
yeah.
What's my line?
Yeah, it's true. It's always like he's thinking about his line. We haven't even got to Jimmy yet.
Oh, I can't. I'm gonna be a mess.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say, guys, I watched it today once again for the 20th time in my life, and I wept. I don't care. Final scene comes, and I'm just a mess.
Oh,
I'm stressed.
I love it.
This scene is sad, but also I always find it funny. And Nolika is gonna call me horrible, but George gets kicked out of the office. Like his dad's like, "Okay, just run back, George." And George goes back to his work. And his boss gets a telegram or a phone call. Does he get his phone call?
He gets a phone call. He's on the candlestick. And as George walks in, he's like, "The pills should have been there an hour ago."
Yeah, he's like, "You didn't bring the pills?"
Slurs the words to the point you can barely understand them.
What?
The reason it's so funny is because this is so intense scene and this kid is 12 and the boss is like, "What are you doing, George? Why didn't you bring the pills?" And then he slaps him in the face a few times.
Oh, it's
and I'm
not
like,
funny.
they're just slapping this kid. And I just, when kids
his
get
bad
pushed
ears bleeding, it's
movies,
very traumatic.
I
oh,
think it's
really?
hilarious.
Damn.
But yeah, so they have this tussle, and George weeping, literally weeping, is like, "You poisoned them, and you didn't mean to. You're upset. I know you're upset. I didn't give them the pills because it's poison." Yeah. And then he realizes it is by weird voodoo pharmacy magic.
And he's like, "Oh, come here, my boy." And they hug.
And then they hug, and they're thick as thieves. And we get to do our second time jump.
Yeah. And then no more important traumatic events happen to George until he's 19 or 20.
So you're telling me it was so true.
He's
that doctor, that pharmacist beat the shit out of him and then was like, "Oh, you're right. Sorry."
Yeah. Actually, in our standards, yes, he beat the shit out of him. In 40s, it was probably just a nice little slap in the head.
Yeah, it was a bit like that.
So was
idiot.
It traumatic though? Is that my question?
No.
Well, no, it's not traumatic. It's just an important event because
it's an important event.
He stopped him from killing this woman.
He stopped him from killing the woman, and it solidifies their relationship. And so, to answer your question, Will, he's supposed to be 22 because he's graduated high school already, but he hasn't gone to college. All of his friends went to college, and he stayed in Bedford and worked at Bailey Bros Building and Loan to help his dad out and save money to then travel Europe and go to college. And his brother's now graduating high school. And it's 1928.
That means that this kid's 12 and that little girl is 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
What's your point? Kids are sexy.
That is what that means. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Sex icons.
And even though Violet and Mary in that scene look the same age, I think that Violet is supposed to be George's age. So she's also 12.
I think they're all just the same age in that scene for sure.
I mean, not to poke holes in my favorite movie of all time, but even today watching it, I was like, absolutely, none of these adult actors look like they are 18 and graduating high school. None of them.
Got you.
Even more so, back then.
Even more so back then. But I'm just watching. I'm like, no, I don't believe it, but I don't care because I love it.
Yeah. They've got.
I believe Heath Ledger more as an 18-year-old in 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, I watched that movie for the first time this year. Great George movie. Bailey. Absolutely great
Still
movie.
haven't watched it.
Oh, you got to cover it. It's so good.
Our listeners can't know that.
They can know.
Yeah. No, we already did cover it.
They all know.
Oh, right.
Well, okay. So, we skip ahead to when George...
So it's now 1928.
22. Yeah.
George Bailey has graduated high school and not gone to college and instead worked in the family business. and all of his friends left and went to college. And now it's his brother's high school graduation night. And we meet George Bailey as the beautiful, talented,
Cary
wonderful Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart. Oh, I'm Jimmy Stewart, see? Yeah.
Fun fact about Jimmy Stewart, he is, to this day, still the highest ranking in the military actor ever, because he got to brigadier general.
Wow.
That is so interesting.
He left
Take that, Adam Driver.
Take that. He left his acting career in Hollywood to volunteer and serve in World War II. And served in the Air Force and everything. It's wild.
That's wacky.
He's wonderful. I love him. I could do a
Cary
whole podcast
Grant,
on
you
him.
Dog. What a good guy.
What a guy.
The role of Jimmy Stewart will now be played by Cary Grant on today's episode.
Damn, I didn't work on my Cary Grant impression.
Yeah, so we see Jimmy Stewart, George Bailey, picking up a custom engraved suitcase from his old boss.
The pharmacist that slapped him.
Engraved.
Yeah, that slapped him around. Like he's trying to buy a suitcase because basically he's like, I'm traveling the world. I'm going away. I'm going to travel all these places. So
he's always wanted to travel. It's his big dream, just to see the world.
Yeah. And he's like, the guy who makes the suitcases is like, no, I got the perfect one on the house. And then he gives it to him and it's got his name engraved on it. And it's a gift from his old boss from the pharmacy.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And then he goes over and sees him and does my absolute favorite trick. Honestly, I want one in my house, if for no other reason than this movie. In old pharmacies, they have like these boxes that when you like push it down, it's a stand-up lighter for cigars and cigarettes. And he would always like stand up and be like, I wish I had $1 million, and pushes it down and the flame comes. I'm like, I want that. Yeah. That's cool. What? I don't smoke, but I want it. I'll light my candles on it or wishes. Something. And to make wishes.
Obviously.
But yeah, so he goes and sees his boss, and then does he just go home? Is it then immediately the dinner scene?
Yeah. He like no. Yeah, he does. Yeah. He basically goes home and it's he has dinner with his parents. His brother shows up and his brother's going to his high school, like his graduation.
His high school graduation, yeah.
And then it's like, oh, George, you should come, and blah blah blah. Mary's gonna be there, huh? Like that.
Oh yeah, the mom's there being like, oh no, that happens later because Mary that happens. I know what you're thinking of, but that happens later.
That does.
So they're having dinner, and it's Harry's graduation. It's his last night in the house because he is leaving for Europe the next day. Which, I mean, the, sort of A-type, almost OCD part of my personality is like, why are you buying your suitcase the day before your trip? Like, I would have been packed a week before, but that's just me. That's fine. To each their own. That's George Bailey's a perfect human, so I can't fault him for his choices.
George Bailey does what George Bailey's going to do.
Exactly. And, we just live by his example.
But then that's not what he does at all.
So I knew it.
He never gets to do what he wants to do. No. But we don't know that yet. So
we don't know that
dinner.
Yet.
His father's all like, I thought you might want to, to come back to the business, maybe.
Yeah, at the end of college. Yeah, because that's where his dad's all like, thanks for not going to college. Thanks for putting your life on hold for me. Also, when you're done college, please come take over my business. And George Bailey's like, no. Like, great idea. What if I didn't do that?
How in their children formation, what age is he? Like, they have multiple child.
So he's 22.
No, sorry.
Yeah, so he's 22 and
just 12. Sorry, he's the firstborn. Yeah,
he's the firstborn, and he's 22, and his brother's like 18.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then, so Harry's like, oh, George, come to my graduation party. Your friends from college are back in town and they're all coming. So George is like, okay, yeah, fine, I'll drop by. And now we go to the graduation party, which is in the high school gym.
Go down.
In the high school gym, yeah. They go there first because he sees Mary there.
Yeah, so he's at the gym and he's like, he's brought pies. It's all very like Americana. Everyone's celebrating. You're introduced to a lot of characters, a lot of side characters that we haven't mentioned that you met when they were kids. So like Violet shows up again as like the pretty blonde in this like beautiful like pencil skirt. And one of their friends shows up from college who we met when they were doing the sledding on the shovels. And all of this. And then this other character who you didn't meet comes up and he's like, oh, George, like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. Please dance with my kid sister, Mary. She's kind of always had a thing for you. Can you just like give her a dance? It'll make her whole night. She's graduating. Like, please.
No.
Yeah. And George is literally like, no, like, please, no. He's like, oh, no, please, 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 please. And he's like, okay, fine. So he follows him over. And then we have the moment that they see each other for the first time as adults. I mean, it's black and white, but the fireworks are palpable.
Wow.
Is all I'm saying.
Fun fact, the version I had was the colorized version.
What?
So I said, fuck that. So I went into my accessibility settings, set it to grayscale on my screen so I could watch it.
Will, I'm so
original
proud.
Black and white.
That's pretty
absolutely
intense.
not. Another fun fact.
Do that.
Jimmy Stewart was one of many actors and directors from that era of Hollywood who there was like some guy who like it went as high as like a congressional court of some sort in America where they were like, oh, we want to colorize old movies. And like Jimmy Stewart and a bunch of actors and directors from that era of Hollywood were like, absolutely not. Please don't do this. Like,
yeah,
you are ruining our art.
It is weird.
And then obviously they lost.
So weird. Like, yeah, what purpose? Does it really add anything? No.
Clearly not, because Will was like, absolutely not. I'm switching back.
Well, I mean, I was like, this colorized version is weird. It's like, it's
I bet, because like, what do they do? Do they like paint it frame by frame?
Oh, yeah. It's very well, like, usually there's like a technology that can do it kind of automatically. And then
who has the time?
Artists have to go back to kind of finesse it.
Yeah. Like, what an awful expense to not have to do. Like, why did we? I know.
There's no reason for it.
That's
I think
stupid.
it was an era of like, let's colorize every old movie because people will eat that shit up. We'll buy it on DVD.
And everyone's like, absolutely not. I want the black and white version or nothing.
Fuck your colors.
What kind of research did they even do for that? Idiots.
None.
Okay, so they
he's at the gym.
see each other.
So he's at the gym.
What does she look like?
each other.
What does he look like? What kind of shoes?
So she's got some
beautiful.
She's got some beautiful like crimping going on in her hair. She's got like the classic 40s like wave, even though it's 1928. We're not going to question it. She's got a beautiful dress. I mean, we don't know what color it is because again, I mean, it may as well be black because it's black and white. Mm-hmm. She's like holding a weird teacup that is, I'm assuming, full of liquor, and she hands it to her date, who's very upset that George has interrupted them. Yeah. And then they just start dancing, and they're dancing. Just
steals this guy's date, and this
he
is
just like literally goes up
Sam
there,
or no?
Takes what's his. No, it's not Sam.
Oh, it's not Sam. Okay.
It's not Sam. Sam like came back from college and was all like hee haw, hee haw.
Yeah, that's true.
He was a donkey.
It's like the Sam's calling card. He always goes like hee haw and like does donkey
Pinocchio.
ears.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's like his character marker, so you always know who's Sam through the years.
Yeah. So this kid, they're all dancing on the floor.
They're all dancing because they're doing a Charleston contest in sort of like a dance-a-thon fashion, the way that you used to. I don't know the Charleston, but there's a lot of like this.
But Will's arms are moving a lot
because like it's very aggressive in the shoulders. Like they're all like.
Because no white people can move their hips, you know?
Right.
Yeah, so that's true. So they just move the upper body.
Yeah.
How, man, like, was that, because nowadays, you know, you dance on people to woo them, you know?
You dance all up on them.
Yeah. Like back then, were they looking at like, wow, her shoulders are bumping? And were they just like,
maybe this is why Katharine Hepburn was all about them shoulder pads.
That's true. Yeah.
She was like drawing attention to the feature that everyone wanted.
Yes, that totally makes sense. Yes. Okay, I'm here for it. Continue.
So a little side thing that we haven't mentioned is it has been casually brought up in dialogue 3 times at this point because I counted because I'm like, wow, they're just like really hitting you over the head with it. That there is a swimming pool under the gym floor.
Yeah.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
This is what I was going to say. This is weird. I've never heard of this.
Oh my God. I love that you say that because apparently my grandmother who went to high school in Toronto had a pool under her gym.
That's so weird to me because this seems
It
like
makes sense.
future tech.
No, it
But
totally
this
makes
is,
I
sense.
think so too.
Where does this exist anymore?
No,
I mean, I don't know where it
I've never
exists
heard of this.
anymore.
Listen, it's probably not like good gym floor, you know? It's like some plywood
It's probably
type
not,
thing
no.
that like peels
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, but this
Well,
is so.
it like automated,
It's just like a
moves
big
back.
door.
Like you
This
turn a
is-
key and it like moves.
yeah, it's a mechanical
Off
splits
pulleys
apart and then
and
reveals
stuff.
the pool.
It's all
Yeah.
Yeah,
pulleys
yeah.
and shit.
Yeah, but this blew my mind because my dream house that I made up as a kid
Yeah.
was like
No way.
basically a fucking giant. All I imagine basically a giant like arena
Yeah.
that like everything was built in as like walls and shit in your house, but everything's bolted in so that at any point I could flip a switch and everything turned around, and then there was an ice rink or a basketball court or whatever.
Yeah. No,
That
I
was
know.
my dream house as a kid.
I
I mean, I grew up watching this, so I was always like, what a cool idea.
Yeah.
Forever, every school I ever went to, I always had the thought, man, I wish there was a pool under the gym floor. That'd be so cool.
I never had that experience. None of that. No.
No,
No.
blew
But
my mind.
yeah, so it's, as I
That's
say, been
wacky.
casually, tastefully, you could say, dropped into conversation, just sprinkled in there a couple of times that there's a pool under the gym floor. So they're doing the Charleston, and Mr. Whoever that's very upset that George stole his date is moping, literally moping, like hand on the chin, pulling a face by, as it would happen, the little like magic box that opens the floor. And this other weird unnamed character shows
Yeah,
up.
it's kind of random. It's like, what did George do to this guy? Like, this guy's just his only scene. He's just like, hey, did you know that there's a pool under this floor? And did you know that this is the key to open it? And did you know that George Bailey is dancing right over top the crack where it opens?
That's
Weird.
very
That's what he
accurate.
does. That's his lines. That's
very,
all it is.
very
Yeah.
Those are his
accurate
lines.
impression of the scene. Like,
Yeah.
For a moment, I'm like, oh, if Will it was in black and white, I'm watching the movie. Like,
I'm
that's what
watching it.
happens.
Exactly.
So
There you go.
weird. Why does everybody want to shit on him?
So turn the key, door opens.
Yeah. and then they fall in,
And-
George and Mary,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
everyone jumps in after them.
because they continue dancing in the pool. So he's like, I'm not embarrassed. This is fun. And
He's
then
like, I'm
everyone's
going to win this
"Woo!"
Charleston contest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only about the upper body anyway. Like,
Right.
Exactly. That's how you swim.
What?
See?
So they get wet. And this all leads to, in my opinion, one of the best scenes in the whole film.
I'm stressed.
Mhm.
Which is George and Mary walking home. So now Mary's in this oversized robe. George is in what I would today call a rugby shirt, but he says football, so I guess it's football. It's very striped. It's like a tight turtleneck.
Yeah, it's what they
Yeah.
used to wear when playing football.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
an oversized trousers or like football pants or whatever. And they're like walking home, singing a song. And he does a beautiful speech. Because they're standing around, and he's like, "Oh, like, what do you want, Mary? What do you want? Do you want the moon? Oh, there's an idea.
Oh
like,
my
I'll lasso.
God.
I'll get you the moon. I'll throw a lasso around it.
I'll get you
That
the moon,
sounds
Mary.
so
Down for you.
familiar.
Yeah.
Lasso,
like-
throw it in.
Yeah,
I
Bring it
know
down for me.
this.
there's an idea.
You know why that's
I'll
failure?
get you the moon.
It's
Yeah.
a famous scene, but you might know it because me and Derek of episode 3 fame, as well as
No,
member
it's
of
not
Last
what
on
it's
Tap,
from.
would say this shit to each other all the time. We'd just be
No.
like, Derek, you want some pizza, Derek? I'll get you some pizza, Derek. Tie a big lasso and throw some pizza down there.
No.
So yes,
What?
yes,
No? Okay.
No.
Alenka.
Well, yeah, I believe that you guys did that, but I'm telling you that's not where I know it from. Is it from Bruce Almighty?
It's
Oh, okay.
probably
Play this
in
clip?
Family Guy.
No.
yes.
This is not. I think it's
No,
in
but
Bruce Almighty
they
or
do, yeah.
something.
Oh, they do. And do you know what?
Yeah.
They do. Don't they have the drawing that she later does?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm not sure, but I know in Bruce Almighty, you see it on film,
You see
and
the
then
And then he
Bruce
actually like
literally
lassos
pulls
the
the moon in
moon.
because he's God.
See,
Yeah.
because she's
Yeah.
watching it
That
and like
comes from It's a
crying,
Wonderful
isn't
Life.
she? Okay, I see
Yeah,
this.
Alenka, I was watching it and crying. All right, like,
Okay.
and I know it almost off by heart.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Stewart just so endearing with that
Maybe
voice.
I'll
He's
watch
just
it.
so like, I'll get you the moon, Mary.
He
No, you
sells
fucking
it, you know. He's
won't,
like, I'll get you
Jim.
the moon. And then you can swallow it and it'll come out your fingertips. I'm like, oh, it
Ew,
just sounds so
what?
beautiful. I
That's
just want
kinda
someone
weird,
to
though.
get me
It's
the
like-
moon.
What?
It is not weird.
Why does he want her to swallow it?
Oh man, I should have named
What a
this drink
sick
Moon
fuck.
Juice. Yeah.
You should have.
Yeah.
Ew. I don't know
Anyway.
about this anymore.
So they keep walking and they pass this like rundown classic, like looks like it's haunted house. And Jimmy Stewart says one of my favorite lines, which is, I wouldn't live in it if I was a ghost. About this like just dilapidated building on the street. And it's this gorgeous mansion falling apart. And the idea is that if you throw a rock at the window and you break glass, you make a wish and it'll come true. So he throws a rock, he makes a wish about how all the places he's going to go, buildings he's going to build as an architect, all of this stuff. And as he's talking, Mary scoops up a rock and whips it at the building and breaks glass and won't tell him her wish, which we all know is that he will never leave.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, he just
She
wants to leave
fucked
that
him.
ragged old town.
Holy shit, she fucked
No, but-
him.
I mean, yes, but...
Yeah, I mean, we
But it
start the
was
movie with
so
angels and
scary.
God, so
No.
wishes do come true. Yeah,
Wishes
That's
come true in this
fucked.
world.
yeah,
Never leave me, Jim.
yeah. So then I will say, then the moon scene happens, because as the moon scene happens, they're out front of this dude's house, and this dude looks really annoyed. He's an old man,
Oh, yeah.
older guy, and he's just like, "Why don't you just kiss her already? Stop
Yeah.
talking."
Cute.
And then he's like, who's doing the kissing, sir? You want me? I'll kiss her all day long.
Oh, my
like
God,
he's
another
saying.
classic line.
Yeah. And then
Wow.
she's embarrassed, so she runs off, but then he like tries to grab at her, and then the robe comes off, and she like hides in the bushes because she's naked now. And he's standing there like,
yikes.
she's like, "George, give me my robe, please." And she's like, "Oh, this
She's like
robe." And he's
shaking
like,
the bush.
yeah, he's like playing with her just for fun. They're just
Oh
having
my
fun,
god.
I guess.
Sure.
Like, weird 1928 flirting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, George, please give me my robe."
That's
And then
fucking weird.
And then a car pulls up, super
Come on.
speeds up,
And we have our
and it's
first
his uncle.
tragedy.
Yeah,
Come on.
first tragedy. His uncle's there, and they're like, George, your father's had a stroke. You got to come with us, George." They say his name a lot. They say George a
Does
lot.
he
They do
give
say George a
him,
lot.
Does does he give her the robe back?
He does. So he immediately throws it on the bush. He's like,
Okay.
"Mary, I'm so sorry. I have to go."
He's not an asshole.
No,
I like
he's
that.
perfect.
All right.
I can't drive that
he's
point home
fine.
enough. He's perfect.
So he drives off, and she like watches him go off, kind of sad and in love and whatnot. But we pretty much cut to the next scene, which is they're all in Bailey loan and
It's about 6 months
housing
later,
loans.
or like
Yeah.
a couple months later.
Yeah, and we kind of find out that his dad died.
George
then
didn't go to Europe.
Yeah, George
Oh,
didn't go to
yeah.
Europe. He stuck
know.
around just to kind of wrap up the affairs, but he's still planning on going to college. He's like, "I'm going
He's
to
not
college."
He's like,
now.
"I'm leaving for college in an hour. Like my
Yeah.
train is in an hour.
Yeah.
I'm going to college.
Yeah.
Goodbye."
And the board, because like this place has a board of directors, are all meeting, and Potter is there because Potter is he part of the board of the directors, or he's just there because he wants to buy, or he
Again, like,
wants
it's
to
all
buy Bailey
very-
and loan.
Confusing. I don't really even watching it. I was like, "Why is Potter there?" But
Yeah,
he
well,
is.
it's because he wants to buy or
Yeah.
like buy up the shares or whatever, and then like George is like, the board can handle it. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. Like, tell me what happens, but I'm leaving. But he makes a kind of a passionate speech
He makes
to
a
Potter
passionate speech
because
about why, because Potter's basically like, "Okay, now that our official business is done," as George is like kind of walking out the door, he's like, "I think that this is a dumb company. I think you have a dumb business model. I want to buy it. I think you're all dumb. This
I
is
think
dumb."
Peter Bailey was
This is
stupid
dumb.
Yeah,
businessman.
and he like
and
insults.
he, had too
He
many
just like pours
good
salt on the
ideals.
wound and is like,
Yeah.
"Peter Bailey sucked. This business sucked. You all suck. I should own this
Suck
business."
my dick.
Wow.
Yeah, like essentially. And then he's like, "Look at this loan. Why did you give this loan out?" And George stops and he's like, "Well, because that's like, he's a good guy and I did that one and blah, blah, blah." And then he goes on this big tirade about how building and loan is like a people first business. And because of them, people can own houses and everything. And then he like walks out the door and is like, "Okay, bye." And the board votes in favor of George, not Potter. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to keep building and loan around, but our only stipulation is that George has to run it. And then we have an amazing close-up shot with like a dun-dun, like music note
like,
on Jimmy Stewart's face.
To college.
And to your point, Alenka, he is wearing a fedora and a trench coat.
Yes,
you know, bang on that one.
It was the look.
Of course you know.
I've seen it.
It was the look.
I know that type of guy, you know?
Yeah.
That doesn't go to college and wears a fedora and a trench coat. And you know, those types of guys.
It is a type. I mean, I think it's changed a lot from 47 to 2020. But, you know, it's still a type.
Exists. It still exists.
It still exists. Still kicking around. And then I think that's it. And we flash forward 4 years to Harry now coming. He gives his college money to Harry. That's what happens.
Yeah,
so instead of going to college, he stays to run building and loan. So once again, George, selfless martyr that he is, gives up his college education to his kid brother Harry, gives him the money, and sticks around to run the building and loan. So Harry goes to college, and now it's 4 years later. And the idea is Harry's coming home from college, and George is finally going to leave Bedford Falls, break out on his own.
He's not.
Go and start be the Willy Loman of his time and be a traveling salesman of some sort. And see the world, whatever he can of it. And so Harry gets off the train and he's all like, "Oh, I'm back. Yay. I'm educated. Ha ha ha." And then he's
here's
like,
my wife.
But also, surprise, I got married. What's up? And the wife is all like, "Ha, he married me because my dad's giving him a job."
Basically.
Which just freaks George out. Because George is like, what the fuck?
Like, that wasn't our deal, motherfucker.
we had an agreement.
The agreement was that he's going to take over.
So then, yes. And this is a small plot point that doesn't impact the story, but one of my favorite fun facts of the film, which is, so they meet the wife, and it's George and Uncle Billy, who's also still running building and loan. And then now we are at the Bailey boarding house, which is where they all live. And they've been celebrating because Harry got married, and Uncle Billy is very drunk and is walking off camera. He's like, George, point me in the direction of my home. Send me home, George. And so George is like, just go that way. So he walks that way.
Go.
When he walks off scene, he's like singing, and you can still hear him singing. And then there's this really loud crash and like smash of glass and everything. And what happened is that a prop hand or like a stage hand dropped a ton of props and a light and like a film canister and just like broke a ton of shit for the film and was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna get fired. What the fuck? God. And so he drops all this stuff, and Jimmy Stewart looks up really shocked. And then you just hear the actor who plays Uncle Billy, be like, I'm all right. And then like, that's the end of the scene. But what happened is that this tech hand dropped all this stuff, and the actor just was like, pretended to have crashed into trash cans. Yeah. And instead, Frank Capra, the director, gave the techie like a $10 bonus on his paycheck, because he's like, you improved my movie, thank you.
Wow. And you essentially invented the off-screen crash bang boom like trope.
That's
exactly
sweet. But
it's this like moment that when you're watching, you think it's planned, but it's not. Movie magic.
Cool.
Movie magic.
I like it.
Movie mistake magic.
Probably the best reaction too for old Jim.
So George's mother comes out, and she's all like, "Oh, you know that girl, Mary? Yeah, you want to fuck her?
You know that girl?
She's
like,
close.
You DTF? Because like Mary might be. Mary's probably DTF.
You know how 40s mothers talk to their 40s sons.
Don't do that.
She's like, you on the Tinder? You on the Hinge? Like,
which one are you using? Exactly. Bumble?
Well, he is
Facebook
bumbling.
Marketplace. I don't know.
That doesn't sound good or legal.
There's Facebook dating, I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
that's what I meant.
Marketplace. That sounds a little bit more.
I'm sure it could be. I'm sure that's what it derived from. You know, Facebook probably saw, hey, there's a lot of ads on here looking for love. May as well monopolize.
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 So she's all like, go see Mary. And he's like, fuck that. I'm going to go downtown.
Damn.
He sees,
literally like Mary lives left. He goes right. He's like,
Why?
I'm going to go this way.
Why?
because he knows that Mary wants to keep him here. He's so like, I don't want to be here. I want to be
but I thought
out
he
in the world. I
liked
want to be
her.
somewhere else.
He does, but I think Will's right. I think that there's a part of him that always knew that like Mary doesn't want to see the world. Mary wants to stay in Bedford Falls and like live that life, and he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he goes downtown. He sees Violet.
Viv.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. Shit.
Is it Viv? They call her Viv, right? Or no?
No.
Is it
I
just Violet?
literally don't
Or Vi?
remember,
made
which
that
is
up.
embarrassing because, again, I watched it today.
He sees Viv. Viv is being flirted with two men, but she sees him.
She's like,
George
I think
Bailey
I
is
got a
hot shit.
date.
Yeah, she just leaves the other two guys, but like, I want
Wow.
that dick right there.
Whoa,
And-
you guys. Don't
Oh, I love
say
it.
that.
I think we already passed it, but I love it when he sees Violet and he's like, oh, that's some dress you got there, Violet. And she's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, this? I just wear this when I don't care how I look.
And then even though I was watching it double time, the scene where they watch her walk down the street is still like 5 seconds long double time. So I
Oh
was
my
like,
God,
that's
it's
a
so
long
long. They just like
shot.
walk her and then like the car like honks. Like
Wait, what? What happened?
Well, there's
We
an
passed
earlier
it.
scene where we see
We
Violet
passed
walk
it.
by. We see
passed
older
it.
Violet for the first time, and she's walking down the street, and Bailey's talking to a cabbie named Ernie. He's a good friend. They're like, everyone loves George.
You guys missed
And
a
George
lot.
is like, he's like, oh, Violet, that's a nice dress because it's a fairly short dress for the 40s
Right.
or
For the
20s, for the
Yeah.
late 20s, I should say.
it came to
And-
just below her knees, guys.
Yeah.
It was scandalous.
Whoa.
And then she's like, yeah, I just wear this. And then she walks down the street and the shot is like them watching her walk away, you know, looking at her ass. And it's like, but it's
Looking
like,
at her
it's a long
shoulders,
shot
Will.
because I watched it in double time and it was still too long. It was
It
like,
was
wow,
a
this is
really
a
long shot.
Yeah.
You gotta
And like
admire
a car
the
almost hits her
shoulders.
and honks its horn and like it's wild.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, he runs into Violet. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. And then she's like, oh, let's go out to the town. Let's have some fun. And
Oh yeah.
he's like, yeah, well, like, want to go out? Let's do something, Violet. And she's like, what do you want to do? And he's just like, I want to go up into the woods. I want to go and look at the
I
stars.
want to go to the mountain. We can
There's
take
an
our
old lake.
shoes off.
Yeah. Walk through the grass. There's an old
What a
pond up
weirdo.
there. We can swim and look at the moon. And she's like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not taking my shoes off, and everyone
That's
laughs
amazing.
at him, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
'cause
they
you
literally,
love
a
him.
crowd forms while she's like, you're weird, George. And they're all like, ha ha,
They're
you
like,
are
haha,
weird.
you're weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is. It's weird.
He is,
Like,
yeah.
no.
He just loves the world
He is.
outside of Bedford Falls.
He just
Okay.
wants to see something other than Main
Mm.
Street. You can't fault him.
He's not weird, but then he just goes and does another weird thing, which is just stand outside Mary's house, just walking back
he's
and
just
forth.
like with a stick on her picket fence.
Yeah.
I'm stressed.
She's
Like he's
like,
gonna
"Are you
murder
coming
her."
in?"
Yeah.
She does.
And
She
so he-
asks. He's
Yeah, she's like, "When are you
"Fine."
gonna come in?" And yeah, exactly. He's like, "Oh, wow, I don't know. I don't know if I'm coming in. I don't know."
He's very rude, very rude.
He
yeah.
is. He's upset. He doesn't handle his emotions well.
Yeah.
That's also a theme in the film, I would say. Yeah, so he goes in and then it's so cute. She's like playing the song that they were singing when they did their walk together. Like,
Oh, yeah, she does this whole prep. She
tonight. Won't you come
runs
out
down the
tonight?
stairs and she
So
turns on the
cute.
record and she like grabs a painting or like a picture that she drew and it's
Oh, God.
George lassoing
lassoes
the moon.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
Aw.
Like she's
She's
in love with him
fucked.
as she whispered
She's
into his
obsessed with
non-existent
him.
ear when she was 12. Yeah,
She's
yeah.
not in love. She is obsessed with him.
She's a bit
she's
obsessed.
determined.
Toxic.
You know, she's she's a woman
no.
who knows what she wants and is not afraid to go get it. All right, guys.
Yeah.
But it's another human being. All right. That's where
Yeah.
things get a little spicy. That's where things get a little, I don't know that you do that. Stop.
Yeah, so she sets up this whole like pageantry around
Yikes.
George entering the home.
Oh,
And then they
boy.
really awkwardly sit on a couch and like don't talk. And then her mom is like, "Oh, Mary, would like literally like, what are you doing with George Bailey? He's a loser. You
Yeah.
Okay.
You should be
there's
dating."
a juxtaposition of like the whole town loves George Bailey. Also, the whole town thinks George Bailey's a loser.
Weird. That's very confusing.
So
it is, yeah.
It is. And the mom is basically like, oh, like George sucks. You need to date Sam Wainwright, which is the like hee-haw guy that we were talking about before.
Okay,
and he
yeah,
calls
he's a
her
valuable
from
young man.
New York or something.
Yeah, he's like a businessman, rich businessman.
Hee-haw,
Yeah,
girl.
basically.
Literally, he's like, hee-haw, hee-haw.
He's like, I'm going to
it's
take
Sam.
my horse to the old
Oh.
town.
Ew, I hate this Sam character.
No.
We all do. A little bit.
He's
low-key.
not too bad at the end of the day.
He's not
good.
too bad. You're right. I forget about the end. The end happened. I was like, every time.
Yeah, he phones. Not before, though. They're sitting on the couch and like...
Oh, but then, George storms out.
Mary's
right?
like, oh, Harry's wife is... she's nice, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's it's good for him. Good. And he's all like super sad. And she's like, oh,
that's it.
You don't like marriage? And he's like, oh,
bitter.
I don't know. Yeah, he's just super bitter
Yeah.
about
He's real
having
bitter.
to stay in Bedford.
Well, fuck,
he's
been, fucked around, you know?
So the phone rings, but then it's weird because like Sam's like, "Oh, you're there with George. Or, like you're trying to
Put
take my
George
girl,
on the
are you,
phone."
George?" Yeah, and he's like, "I got a big opportunity for him." And they're on the phone, and they're like, "Hey, like come in the ground floor with me. Come and buy some stocks and plastics. Like you got to help me here, George."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, he's still bumbling at this point. He's like, oh, I don't know, man. That means I have to stay here." No,
And
I
again, I have to just like, I have to keep bringing it back to like, this is my favorite film. This scene is incredible because of the like chemistry and the intensity, because they have to share the candlestick phone because her mom is being like a little nosy nobody upstairs on the other line. So they have to use the one candlestick. So they're like inches apart, just like listening. And then they're like staring at each other. And she's like, he says it's a wonderful opportunity. And they're like inches apart. Oh, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. I can't.
Yeah.
And
it's like, yeah. So they're like, he thinks like, yeah, Mary's in love with Sam, but then she's not. She's in love with him, obviously. But I can't remember how it brings on, but he just gets so upset at her. He's like, oh, here we go. Keep me in this town. I don't want to stay in this town.
It's like the intensity of them being together.
So
and also,
confused by this guy.
My third fun fact, I've lost count. I don't know if it's 3, I don't know if it's 10, but another fun fact. So as I said before, Jimmy Stewart was or I don't know if I said it I've already forgotten if I said this in the podcast or if I said this
just say it again
before it, but I'm just going to say it again. He served in World War II. He left his Hollywood career to serve in World War II and was in active duty and everything. And so when he left, It's a Wonderful Life is the first film he made post-war. So it was his first time coming back to acting. And he was really nervous and really insecure and like really kind of worried about it a little bit. And
probably
was also
had PTSD.
Had a lot of PTSD, which like arguably comes out in the film. And so he was really insecure and a bit unsure about returning to acting and didn't know if he wanted to. He was also, I mean, I geek out on this because I've studied theater and acting and I find it interesting. And so at that time in Hollywood and in cinema history, you've got Marlon Brando coming out of Stella Adler's school in New York with like the new method acting for like Streetcar Named Desire and everything. So it was this sort of new generation of actors that was vastly different from the Cary Grants and the Jimmy Stewarts and the Humphrey Bogarts of the previous sort of generation of actors. So Jimmy Stewart was like, oh, I don't know if this is the thing for me or if this is still like right for me. And he was really nervous about this scene because it was really intimate and it's where him and Mary are supposed to kiss for the first time. And he was putting it off and he was begging Frank Capra to put it off. He's like, I don't want to shoot it. I don't want to shoot it. I don't want to shoot it. So they put it really late in the shooting schedule and they do it. And he just like forgot every line of dialogue. And it's essentially entirely improvised, and they missed like a page and a half of dialogue.
It sounds
and he
like
just
it
like ends up being like, I don't want ground floors, and I don't want plastic, and I want you. I don't know, and then like just kisses her, and he's like, oh, Mary.
I mean,
and
half the dialogue is like, Mary, oh,
Mary,
George,
Mary, and they just like
Mary.
hug and like awkwardly kiss, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Good God.
And then flash forward at their wedding day.
Film?
But it does sound a lot
that's true.
like...
Literally, it's like next frame, we're at the wedding.
Yeah. That whole
bells
like,
are ringing, aren't they? No.
The whole like conversation that they have where it's just like their name over and over again seems very old Hollywood. So I wonder how many of those scenes is just like improvised, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I always notice when people just say names over and over again.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we do
names.
that. Like, actually, I don't think we actually like. I can't think of a time when I'm
Mary.
actually just saying like, "Oh, like Will," like,
Yeah.
unless you're willfully, ignoring me, then I'd be like, excuse me.
Yeah, I would never like hold Will and be like, "Oh, Will." Oh, Will. Like at a total loss for words. You know, people, I think at that comfort level, just don't say words, you know?
Yeah.
They just look at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the
They
real
stare.
thing to do.
Yeah.
That is the real thing to do.
That's real shit right there.
They're not method, you know?
They're not.
Right.
Anyway,
not
so
method.
it's their wedding now?
So they're married. They're married. They're like literally walking out the church
Oh.
and literally into the car, into Ernie's cab on the way to the airport for their honeymoon.
My favorite part of that whole sequence is like Mary's mom is just weeping through the whole thing.
Yeah.
If you watch the actress playing Mary's mom, she's still so upset that like Mary is marrying
This
She's
fucking
sad?
loser.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
like absolutely
That's so
devastating.
funny. Holy
Exactly.
shit, that's funny.
So they get in the cab and they're all like, "Oh, look at all this money." Could they? So he's got all this money.
Oh, squandering.
Was this from? They have money from because he invested with Sam, didn't he? Or no, he didn't.
No,
do
I think
that.
they just have money because like he didn't go to college, he didn't take the
Oh,
Europe
yeah.
trip. He's just been
It's all
working at
his
Bailey and Loan.
savings,
Like he's
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
literally been working and
Yeah.
saving that moolah.
And they're like, "We're gonna
It's
go to
that
Bermuda.
Monday.
We're gonna
Work.
go
to
here,
New York,
Vegas, yeah,
like
New York, all of it."
we're gonna travel, and they witness in the car as they drive up Main Street a run on the bank because, of course, it's probably at this point 1929, and it's the crash of the stock market and the beginning of the Great
Mhm.
Depression.
Yeah,
So they're watching the run on the bank, and George goes to the building and loan building to see what's happening, and the doors are locked, and everyone's standing outside. And so he goes in, and they've got no money because the bank, because of the Great Depression and everyone wanting their money back and the run on the bank, called Bailey Building and Loan, being like, "Okay, you need to pay back your loan from us right now. Give us
Mhm.
everything you have." So they emptied their vault of all their money, and they now have no money. And now all of their customers have come to them being like, "I want my money back." And George is like, "Well, your money's in Sam's house and your money's in Cheryl's house.
Yeah.
And like, I don't
and
have
Potter
money."
owns the bank. Like,
And-
yeah,
He now
Ah,
owns the bank. He
yes.
owns the bank because of this instance. So the bank manager
Mhm.
person went to Potter and was like, "I'm fucked. What's up?" And Potter's like, "Cool, I'll bail you out, but I now own you."
Right.
Yeah.
And so he calls George and he's like, "I've heard that your doors are locked. Like, what's that about?" And George is like, No, they're not locked. Like, they're open." He's like, "Okay, cool. If you close before 6, like, I will literally destroy you." You're just like, don't do it. Also, if you want to be bailed out, I will pay all of your people 50 cents on the dollar of whatever they have with you. And George is like, "F you, no, but we will stay open because like you're not gonna own us."
Mhm. So Bailey,
Yeah.
George Bailey, the wonderful man he is,
Love him.
uses the $2,000 he had for the honeymoon to give money, his own money, because they're out of money at the B&L. So they give money. He gives money to all these people, and they're just like, "What do you need to tide you over until you can get your money from the
Whoa.
bank?" And they're like, $20. I need $20, George. And they're like,
So he's
just
like doling it
giving
out. The
Yeah.
last woman who
What?
goes to him, there's this one guy who's a real stickler, and he's like, "I have $242 in here, and I want my $242." And George Bailey's like, "No, like what do you need to tide you over?" And he's like, $242. He's like, "Okay, fine, here's
Yeah.
$242. Like, you're an asshole, bye."
Yeah.
And then a different guy's like, "Oh, well, like I guess $70 will pass me by," and like they so it goes like a couple people, and then the last
Yeah.
woman comes in and she's like, "Well, I guess like can I have $17.50?" And he goes, $17.50, and like kiss her on the cheek. And my favorite moment about that is that it was entirely also improvised because the director asked her to just make up a number and surprise Jimmy Stewart. And so she went in and she was like, "I need $17.50," and he's like, "Oh my god, thank God! Like you don't need $100."
Yeah.
I don't.
So
what's
cute.
did we flash forward?
So the next scene's very sweet. It still is so all the money's
oh my god,
gone,
because they
and
just
then-
got married.
Yeah, he realizes like, "Oh, Mary, where's Mary? Oh, my wife, my beautiful wife. What is I like? It's not her dreams not coming true to go on the honeymoon." So he goes home. No, he doesn't go home.
No, he does. No, she calls him and she's like, "Come home," and he's like, "But we don't have a home."
Yeah, and she's like, "Some sycamore, 320 sycamore. Is that what it is? Whatever it is."
Yeah,
They
something
don't
like that.
even
That
know
sounds
each
right.
other.
He shows up at that old.
Sounds
Yeah.
like.
They met 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It seems that way.
Well, he shows up at that old house they threw rocks at.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's still abandoned, dilapidated. And he's like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And we also cut to a scene of the police chief and Ernie, the cab driver. Like they're like his friends, and like they're good friends of George, and they're like getting posters
They're
of
like
like
pasting
Bermuda.
posters to the
Yeah.
window.
Yeah, of like where they were supposed to go on their
So cute.
Okay.
honeymoon. And he walks up, and Ernie like answers the door as like a doorman. And he's like, "Oh, how can I help you, sir?" Like, "Come right in." And he like has like a doorman's hat kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
it's real cute. And he walks in, and Mary's got like a whole table spread of food and all the posters
Oh.
up, and it's like this is their home. This is
She's,
they're
like,
going to be their honeymoon.
Made a
because-
fire. The staircase is falling apart, but there's a
Oh.
bedroom off to the side that we get like a cheeky glance at. Like,
Oh.
Yeah.
honeymoon.
There's
Gotta
rain leaking through the
fuck.
roof. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is when it turns into an R-rated movie.
Oh,
And-
I bet you there is a It's a Wonderful Life. Porno.
Is it what would the porno be for It's a Wonderful Life?
What wouldn't it be?
I just know that like whoever the lead actor would just be screaming Mary the whole time. Like, Mary!
Yeah.
Mary,
Mary!
Mary.
So gross.
So very.
Well, keep in mind there's been
Sex
a
is
couple
gross.
times throughout this where they pause the movie. The gods
Yeah.
pause the movie,
Oh, yeah.
and Clarence and the angels talk. A few times that's happened. Not super important, but they do that because
Just to keep you in mind that Clarence is there and that we're
Right,
watching
right.
this for Clarence's
Right.
benefit.
we're watching the
right.
past.
For him, for Clarence.
Yeah.
For Clarence. It's all
So-
for Clarence.
They have a fun not in Europe honeymoon. George again doesn't get away, but he still has
Selfless,
family
selfless
and
man.
fun. And
Yeah.
so they
And then, it's
they
World War
continue.
II.
yeah. No,
So
no,
then we
not
get,
yet.
like-
No, not yet. Not yet.
So
No,
what's
they
next?
next the BNL is still up and coming, going really well. They create Bailey Park, which is like a housing subdivision.
Yeah, but that happens in World War II because it's a montage.
Is it?
Because like Potter's doing the draft
Oh.
and like Harry goes to war.
Okay.
And
Potter
it's
and
just like it's a
Harry.
montage that's all like filtered in.
Is it all part of it? Oh,
It's
okay,
all part
okay.
of it because since George doesn't go to war because of his bad year. So he has
No,
honorable
that-
discharge.
I do remember what happened, and like because I've got
Okay, that's
like a
fine.
thing.
I mean,
But,
clearly I have a terrible memory.
well, no, but because there's one thing that happens before the war, I'm pretty sure, in that so the Bailey Park is created. There's a subdivision,
Yeah.
and Mary and George like
Mary.
welcome Mr. Martini, who's like this Italian
Immigrant.
immigrant and his family into a new home that they built for him. Like they're doing well. They're loved by the town. People love the Bailey homes, and Potter's like homes are not getting bought anymore because everyone's going to Bailey, and he's like, I gotta deal with these Baileys. So he
Deal with these
he
Baileys.
literally like calls George into his office
Yeah.
and offers him a job of like
Lots of money.
$20,000
Because
a
like
year,
at this
which
point
is
he's making
crazy.
$45 a week. And like, yeah, Potter's like, I'll give you 25 grand a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so because he's like because he doesn't have kids yet, and so he's like, well, you're making 45. Well, after you spend this on this and groceries and then the wife, like, what, you're left with 10. Then when you have a kid, you won't be left with that. So you'll have no savings at all.
Oh yeah.
So he's really
like
tempting, and
that.
George is like, oh my god, I'm gonna take this fucking job. But then he kind of, it's not like a flashback. He
Great.
just kind of
So
about to
good.
take it, and he's like, no, you know what? I don't know. He
He,
doesn't
like,
rip up anything, but he,
literally shakes Lionel Barrymore's hand and then looks at his hand disgusted as
Yeah.
if like it
There
was
was
the
semen on it or
clammiest,
something.
like,
Yeah.
like just grossest handshake you've ever had. And he's like, I don't need 24 hours. I don't need to think about it. I don't need anything. Oh, no, I'm not having this job. And like storms out of the office. Again, not great at handling his emotions, but you know.
Aw.
yeah.
I
So,
love
but
it.
he gets home, and the house is still pretty dilapidated. But
It is.
Mary's,
It's
in
rough.
bed.
So they're really living there.
he's- Yeah, they still live there.
Absolutely.
They're fixing it up. She's fixing it up.
She's fixing it up.
He walks up the stairs and the fucking wooden banister, like the top of like, the little round top of a
like at
banister.
the end that you hang your coats on.
Yeah, it comes off when he grabs it. It's all dilapidated. And he walks up. She's things. She's kind of sleeping, but then she wakes up and he goes into bed with her. And then she goes, fuck, what does she say?
Well, he's like, why are you with me? I can't give you anything. I'm a failure.
Like, why didn't you go with Sam Wainwright?
Yeah. And then she's like, because I want my baby to look like you. And he's like, I'm terrible. I'm terrible. What?
Your baby?
Your what?
Is she
and then he says, oh my God. And then he's like, Mary, are you on the nest?
Are you on the nest?
What the fuck does that mean? Incubating. Got it.
Incubating. Bun in the oven.
Yeah,
and
well, she's like, you didn't, she's like, you lassoed a stork.
Oh, yeah.
George Bailey lassoed a stork.
He's like, what? Is it a boy or a girl? She's like, uh-huh.
And that's it, yeah. Now is the war montage.
You're right, actually, because then immediately it's the war montage of like Potter's running the draft and like Mary's fixing the house and George is developing Bailey Park and doing other things to help the community in wartime.
And George doesn't go to the war because of his hearing loss. He's exempt, but Harry goes to war. But Harry is like a pilot and like is like an honored pilot and
does something great, saves a ton of
Nazis.
people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
now we switch to Inglourious Bastards.
And the movie changes.
I don't get it.
George is a night watchman for like air raids, which never happened in the States. So very boring job. And so it's kind of like, the montage of it's the war. Mary has 4 kids in that time.
Which like,
what?
Power to you.
On. By yourself.
So,
magic.
So then Harry gets awarded a congressional medal from the president. And so we basically arrive on the day that everyone's praying for him. The morning of.
So now we're at like sort of like
Eve morning.
Today.
It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas Eve. It's like probably 1946 because that's when the film was made.
Mm-hmm.
So Harry is currently in Washington D.C. at like a lunch with the president getting his medal, and he's going to be flown home to Bedford Falls via like the Air Force.
He's like, I don't want to go to Bedford.
They don't have the helicopter yet, but
yeah, exactly. And George is trying to get everything together. Life is
carrying wreaths. He's handing out Christmas stuff to the town. Like
living
everyone
his
loves him.
Absolute best life.
Yeah.
And something we haven't mentioned. Christmas joy, exactly.
Yeah.
Something we haven't mentioned is that Uncle Billy, the lovable little buffoon that he is, the drunk man who stumbled and, as I said before, like supposedly crashed into trash cans and things, whatever, has a horrendous memory. He forgets everything. And he's always...
Which is also why, if you were wondering, why does George have to run it? Isn't the uncle there? You're like, he's a fuck up. So
he's a major fuck up. It's essentially an act of charity to keep him employed.
Yeah.
That is rude.
And so he's constantly like wrapping or tying rope around his fingers to remind him of things.
Which I don't know how that works. But,
I don't either. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I don't get it.
Remember all.
It is like the remember all, and I've had that thought too, but I'm like, but it doesn't remind you of what you need to remember. Just that you need to remember something.
All. That's just it.
Oh man.
So this is Uncle Billy, and Uncle Billy has been tasked today with taking the bank deposit, essentially the deposit of like the month of December's loans from the people of Bedford to the bank and depositing it. So he takes it and he runs into Potter and he's all like top dog because he's like, building and loan is better than it's ever been. Bailey Park is like fucking incredible and exactly where you want to raise your kids. Also, did you know that our nephew is getting the Congressional Medal of Honor and is like eating lunch with the president? What's up? Like, don't you wish you were a Bailey? So he's like really showing off, like peacocking for Potter.
Mm-hmm.
And happens to unfortunately fold the money for the deposit into the newspaper that he then hands to Potter. And he goes to the bank.
Oh, no.
And he immediately is like, oh, the money. Oh, sorry. Let me go find it. Maybe I left it at the checking booth place. And then he's lost the money. He has no idea where it is.
He's like, I don't know where the money is.
Like retracing his steps, stomping through the snow.
Mm-hmm. Poor old Billy.
Oh, Billy. Gets back to the bank and he's like really panicked. I don't remember what George is doing at this moment because it's flashing sort of between them.
Yeah. So George is back at BNL and there's an auditor there who's
That's it. There's a bank manager there, guy.
Yeah. And he's
bank
like,
examiner.
Bank examiner. I've got to make sure everything's on the up and up. I'll make sure everything's good. And he's like, no, I need to see Billy. And he's like, oh, yeah, Billy's going to be here. And then Billy
because they need the checkbook that Billy has.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Billy comes. He's like, I lost the money. I don't know where the money is. And then James, Stewart, Jimmy, Billy, Bailey, George Bailey.
Billy Bob Thorne.
He's like, where's the money? Oh, where's the money? Oh, my
Cary
God.
Grant.
Cary
Grant. Like, where's the money?
Yeah. And he's like running all over.
Show me the money.
And he's like, lost the money. And it's like, oh, my God. Like,
so now we are
on?
we're in hot water.
Yeah.
So and also what we haven't mentioned is that at this point Potter knows exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
Because when Billy gave him the money, he was like wheeled into his office because he's like in a wheelchair for the whole movie and constantly like being wheeled around by this like lurch character who just like pushes him places. So he's in his office and he opens his newspaper and he finds the money. He's like, oh, how did I get this? And then he looks out his window and he sees Uncle Billy freaking out looking for stuff. And he's like, ha ha ha, I know what happened.
Ew.
I know. It's horrendous. And so George, in an act of desperation, because he retraces his steps with Billy. He goes to the bank. They're looking. They can't find anything.
Yeah.
So he goes to Potter, which is like, this is a big moment for George Bailey to go crawling to Potter. Oh, it doesn't. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, because he goes home.
Yeah, so Potter knows he has the money and is like secretly keeping it from. There's another scene is kind of important because it's also in terms of his like George's reputation is Violet shows up because she's kind of broke. She needs money. She wants to move to New York. And so George is like, here, take some of my own personal money. I can give you a loan.
Shells out his wallet.
Yeah, she kisses him on the cheek, like, but like, near the mouth.
It was near the mouth. I was like, Violet.
Leaving like a big lipstick stain. He walks out of his office like, no, it's okay, Violet. And he wipes she wipes the lipstick off his face. But it really makes it look like they've been boning in his office.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
But they haven't because he's a stand-up guy and I love him.
He stands
up.
And
then the money gets lost. He's desperate and he's just like, because the auditor's there, he's like, I could go to prison. Like, it looks like they're laundering money or they're keeping money from people.
Yeah.
And so
he goes
all
home
sad.
Yeah, that's right.
This scene, he's like the fucking worst, but like, understandable. But he shows up.
It's fascinating because honestly, Alenka, like in this scene, as an actor like Jimmy Stewart, from the beginning of the scene when like everything's good and he's handing out Christmas wreaths to like when he's at home, like crying, holding his kids and like screaming, why is she playing like that song? He's aged like 10 years because of the stress, which is where I say some World War II PTSD was coming out a little bit. Just like leaking into that performance.
Yeah.
But everyone's annoying him. He literally says like, why do we have all these kids?
He's like, why do we live in this drafty refrigerator house? Because like his kid has like a cold from walking home with her flower, and like the other kid is like, how do you spell this word? How do you spell this word? How do you spell this word? And like the other kid's playing like Auld Lang Syne forever.
The whole time.
Absolutely on repeat on the piano.
So like hell, Yeah.
It is literally hell. He was supposed to go travel.
He was.
Yeah. He's literally like, I've been nowhere.
Yeah. And so he goes upstairs and tucks her into bed, and she's like, here's my rose, this flower I have, and like the petals are falling off. Daddy, can you like stitch them back on? And then he like puts them in his pocket and is like, yeah, all good as new. And then he goes back downstairs and just like fucking freaks out and kicks a bunch of shit. Like he looks like this whole scene is like
kicks the Christmas tree.
this whole scene, it's like he's gonna murder his family. He's
Right.
This is it. This is why they're
This
praying.
is it. And this is where
why
it takes a
Clarence is
turn.
coming. Yeah.
For sure. So he's, a little bit emotionally
Little upsetty
distressed.
Yeah.
He's a little upsetty spaghetti.
He also phones his daughter's teacher.
Oh,
to,
yeah, and verbally abuse
her out. Yeah. For letting his daughter go out in the cold and get a cold.
Right.
It's like, what kind of teacher are you?
And then the
He's
teacher's
upset.
husband answers the phone, Mr. Welch, and gives him a tongue lashing. And they're just like, fuck you, buddy. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
now
goodness.
he goes to Potter.
So then
He's
he
like
goes
out
to
of
Potter,
desperation.
which,
yeah.
again, I say as a character moment, it's a big moment because we've heard speech after speech about how everyone in the town has to go crawling to Potter and the Baileys never will and blah, blah, blah. So he's gone crawling to Potter, gone against his own wishes. And Potter says, he looks at his like collateral. He's like, of course I'll help you. I'll give you a loan. But like, what's your collateral? And because as you pointed out before, the Baileys are hella broke all the time. Poor. He's got no collateral. He's got like a $500 life insurance plan.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
he's got his kids.
No, he's got a $15,000 life insurance plan, but only $500 equity. So that's the only, you can only get $500 advance of it. So Potter says, well, you're worth more dead than alive, which is an important line.
Which is integral. And so then why does he leaves Potter's what? Because Potter just laughs him out of his office, essentially.
Yeah, well, because Potter goes maybe you've been cooking the books, you've been keeping that money. Where'd you lose it? Because he doesn't tell him that Billy lost the money. He says, I lost the money, not Billy. So he's like, well, I'm going to call the police on you because you're keeping the money. Also, because he's already got word's already got around about Violet. So he's like, and you're cheating on your wife. His whole reputation's finished.
And also Potter's just evil.
Yeah. So he's calling the police, but George runs out and he goes to Mr. Martini's tavern.
He goes to the bar, has a cute little drink.
Yeah, he has a little drink.
Has a cheeky little drink.
Little drink.
Cheeky little drink. He's very upset. Yeah. Which, PSA, don't drink when you're upset.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you feel better.
And he prays for, God to help him.
Well, I guess, he sends out a little prayer at the bar and then he gets in his car. Again, PSA.
No, not yet.
Not yet? What happens? What am I missing?
Well, the reason I mentioned the teacher was the teacher's husband is also at the bar.
Oh, and of course, and this is the drink, of course.
Yeah. The teacher's husband, hears his name said out loud, Bailey? George Bailey? And he's like, yeah, who are you? And he punches him in the face, the teacher's husband. And he's like, I'm Mr. Welch.
Okay.
You made my wife cry all night.
Gives him a cut lip, hence
he cuts his lip. Yeah. That's what
Bloody Bailey lip, mulled wine.
Yeah.
Ew. So then he gets in a car and again, don't drink and drive.
Crashes it.
Crashes into a tree. This other dude comes out and is like, what the fuck, man? You crashed into my tree. My grandfather planted that tree. I hate you. I hate you.
I know. A little bit of bark is off it. He's like, look what you did to my tree.
You fucked up my grandfather's tree. And then he's like, I'm sorry, I'm George Bailey. I'll give you money. And he's like, I don't know who the fuck you are. I don't care. It's like the star on top of George's sad Charlie Brown Christmas tree of this strange man in Bedford Falls doesn't know me. I'm a failure.
Right.
So he stumbles off and he's now on the bridge. And here we arrive at arguably the very late climax of the movie.
Very, very late.
Very late. We've got a half an hour left in the movie. And here we are. And George is crying on the bridge. And he's like, everything sucks. My life sucks. Fuck it. And he has a little montage in his brain of Potter being like, you're worth more dead than alive. And Violet being like, you're weird.
You're weird.
Just voices of the few bad things that have been said about him in this film.
Dano planned. Lisa needs braces. That's what it is. Yeah. That's what this is.
And he's looking at the crashing waves, which are very dramatic. And then the camera pans and we see for the first time Clarence, the angel, in his cute little bowler cap, standing and bow tie.
Oh, he has a bowler cap.
He has a cap and bow tie, standing a little a ways away from George.
With a creepy smile on
With
his
a
face.
very
like looking
creepy
at him.
smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
And
angels do.
He suddenly, because he's an angel in his magic, is in the water. And he's like, help! Help! And so George, instead of jumping in to end his life, jumps in to save Clarence.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
Okay.
like, so was his plan just to jump in the river and then drown himself? Or
I
like, I
mean,
don't understand when
again,
people,
I don't
he
really
literally
know.
jumps and dives to save someone.
And he's fine. But if it had been like 5 seconds earlier,
He would have been dead for some
like,
reason.
I don't get it.
I guess he would have stayed underwater, I guess. I don't know.
Who knows? Just
Or he
like,
would have
let-
fallen in a way that smacked his head or something. Let's just like
We're just
imagine
gonna
how he
overlook
dies.
it.
It's
Yeah.
the, yeah.
We're gonna overlook it.
What's it
I mean,
called?
I've always liked to look at it as like maybe he ran around like off the bridge and down the hill to get into the water safely, but like who knows?
Yeah.
He does not play safe. He fucking dove.
No, he
He
dove.
he does a good dive too. He does that like
Swan
World War II
dive.
soldier train dive right there. Yeah.
He does indeed.
So he saves Clarence, and then there's a fucking bridge operator or some dude in like a little house by the bridge, like a little
yeah,
like
like a
office
weird
by the bridge.
toll boothy thing.
Yeah, kind of. And they get like all like dried up in there, and Clarence wastes no time being like, "I'm a fucking angel.
Yeah.
I'm 200 years old.
Clarence
I'm
owns his
here to
shit.
help you."
Clarence literally owns his shit. He's like, I'm 200 years old. I
Yeah.
love Tom Sawyer. It's like his Hinge profile is like
Days
200
Tom
years
Sawyer.
old, loves Tom Sawyer, looking for wings. Like
Looking
hit
for
me
wings.
up.
Exactly.
And he just like owns it all. He's wearing his
Mhm.
like 1800s underwear that like the
Perfect.
toll booth man doesn't understand, and he's saying
Yeah.
weird shit.
And he like the toll booth man literally like leaves in fear almost. He's like, this guy is either crazy or an actual angel, and I'm scared.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
Either
He leaves
scenario, a little iffy.
it's all
Yeah.
a bit suspect. And the crux of this scene is essentially that through their like little Socratic conversation, George Bailey ends up saying, "Oh, like it would just be better if I'd never been born." And Clarence is like, "Oh, there's an idea." Oh,
yeah, he like
okay.
looks up at God. He's like, you think? Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's
He's
do
like,
that.
"Oh, let's do that. That's how I'll get my wings."
So spicy. Yeah.
So spicy. And so he's like,
He's
okay,
like-
you've never been born. And suddenly his lips no longer bleeding. He doesn't, his clothes are dry. Everything, the entire movie hasn't happened.
Yeah. The entire movie now becomes like
Null
the
and void.
Scrooge, a Christmas Carol now, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And so now we go back to Martini's, and it's no longer the warm and welcoming place that it was.
It's also not snowing anymore.
It's no longer snowing. That is important.
His car isn't crashed by the tree anymore.
No.
Like there's no car there. He's like, "Where's my car?" He's like, "You never had a car. You never crashed into a tree." And this guy's
God.
and George is still like, "You're crazy. What's going on?" Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
he
he's
doesn't
like-
realize it. Yeah.
He's like, "Where's Bailey Park?" And like the man who was all upset about his grandfather's trees, like, "I live in Pottersville. I don't know what Bedford Falls is. I don't know what Bailey Park is. Like, this is Pottersville."
Yeah.
And so then they go to the
Which
bar.
is also Back to the Future.
yeah, I was
3.
just about to say. I was like,
Or
we're about
2.
to get into
2
like
or
Back to the
3?
Future. It's two.
Two,
Back to
yeah.
the Future 2, where we like go to like
know.
alternate city reality.
Biff Tannen world. Yeah,
Biff
but it's
Tannen
Pottersville
world.
now.
Gross.
So we go to the bar, and Martini, the bartender, is mean. And this is where Clarence orders. So they go to order a drink, and he's like, "What'll you have?" And Clarence is like,
Oh.
"I want like flaming rum."
Yeah.
Oh.
He's like, I want to, flaming
He
rum
wants
punch.
to live a little.
And the guy's like, "Listen, we got gin or gin." Like,
And then because it's
what
like
do you
Clarence is trying to
want?
remember what he liked when he was alive,
Aw.
like when he was not an angel.
That's
And he's like,
cute.
"Oh no," he's like, "Mulled wine, extra
Yeah?
cinnamon, easy on the cloves."
Yeah.
Aww.
Which is further inspiration for tonight's drink.
That's what
Yes.
he liked, eh?
And then
It
the
is.
bartender's name is Nick, and Mr. Martini actually isn't there. The bartender's
that's
name
right.
is
Yeah,
Nick,
yeah, yeah,
and
it's
it's
Nick.
Nick's bar now.
He's like, "Where do you
Um,
get off calling me Nick?"
Yeah, because he's like, "You don't know who I am." And he's like, "But you know my name." And then, but he calls them pixies, which I think in that time would have been like homosexuals.
I
And-
agree.
Yeah.
I'm watching it today. I was like,
Yeah, he's like, "You couple of pixies. What are
I
you
was
doing?" Like, I guess
"Ooh,
back in
Yeah.
the day, homosexuals drank mulled wine, not real
maybe."
men. Yeah,
Who knows?
Maybe.
maybe.
Gotta ask.
So basically,
Cary.
Cary Grant.
Yeah. Duh.
All right.
Duh.
So then they throw them out of the bar. Because,
Literally.
Oh no, Mr. Brower.
That's right. So the pharmacist comes in sheepishly.
Mr. Gower. Yeah.
And Nick, the bartender's like, get out. You're horrible. You're a garbage human being. Get out. And and George Bailey's like, what is happening? That's Mr. Gower. He's lovely. And then Nick's like, Mr. Gower killed a lady because he poisoned her years ago with his was never a pharmacist ever again. If you know him, you've been in prison. Get out of my bar. And so then they literally throw them out of the bar. And at this point, George is still like, I don't know what's happening. This is weird.
And Clarence is like, you were never there to stop the poison.
You were there.
Poison. Poison.
Yeah, he had an easy script to remember. It was just, I want wings. I'm 200 years old.
Let's repeat the plots of the film that I just watched.
The plots of the film. And also, you were never there. Like, a lot of his lines are like, you weren't there. You weren't there.
And fucking Mary. Yeah. Those are his lines.
That's George Bailey. Mary.
Yeah. And Clarence also says, so they ring the cash register at one point in the bar. And Clarence is like, every time you hear a bell ring, Angel gets his wings. Aww. And then when they get kicked out of the bar, Nick is like registering, going like, hey, I'm giving out Angel wings. Haha. And he's just like ringing the bells.
What a dang.
Yeah.
And then, so George is still like, fuck, what's going on?
Let's go to Bailey Park.
Yeah.
That's next, right?
Exists.
I think. Or does he go home first?
No, he's like to his mom. Go home. Yeah. So, so he's like, he's checking he's like, if I didn't exist, then who am I? He's like, you're no one. You don't have an identity. He's like, what? No. And he's trying to check for his wallet. He's like, you don't have any identification, George. You don't even have Zuzu's rose petals in your pocket. And he's like, what? How did you know about that? And he still is like, what's going on? Like, you're a hypnotist. You're a hypnotist.
Oh yeah. He's all like, you're no.
Yeah. So he goes downtown.
And this is where we're like, it's like Back to the Future 2, walking through Pottersville, and it's like
strip clubs and casinos. And it's all like
flashy and gross. And
and then he sees I think it's
not bad.
Yeah. He sees it's like a showgirls theater, and Violet's being like torn out of there and arrested. He's like, I know that girl. That's Violet. I know her.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Bitch, you weren't born.
He doesn't get it. It takes a while.
Idiot.
And then I think then he goes to like his mom's house.
Yes. No, yeah.
He goes to his mom's house before Bailey Park.
Well, he gets into Ernie's cab, but Ernie doesn't know who he is. But he's like, Ernie, take me home. And he's like,
who are you?
Yeah, and he goes to 320 Sycamore.
Yeah, and he's like, you don't. Like, you know where I live. He's like, you've been to my house. And he's like, take me to 320 Sycamore. And he's like, okay. But then as he's like pulling by the police chief, who he also knows, he's like, he like looks at him like, this guy's crazy. Come follow me, please. So he brings him to the house, but it's still empty and dilapidated. No one's bought it. No one's lived in there for years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he runs through that, and then gets into a bit of an altercation with Ernie, the cab driver, and like Bert, the cop. Which, in watching it today, I was like, "Are they really named Bert and Ernie?"
Yeah, it's true. They are Bert and Ernie.
I was like, "What is happening?" Yeah. So Bert and Ernie.
Clarence bites the cop's hand and lets George run away.
What?
So the cop is trying. Like Bert is trying to, I don't know, arrest George, I guess. And so Clarence bites his wrist and is like, run, George, run. George runs down the street. And this is when he runs to his mother's house.
Yeah. And he answers the door and she's like, oh, Mom. And he's like, I don't know who the fuck you are, guy. And then he's like, well, Uncle Billy. And she's like, he's in an insane asylum. Like B&L went out of business years ago.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it can't be real. No.
And he's like, I don't know what's happening. She's like, well, get off my porch.
He's like,
sort your life out somewhere else. And so then he goes.
Oh my God. I just realized like how much fucking Spielberg took. For Back to the Future, because then he goes to Bailey Park. Martini will be there. Like, Martini's got to know me. But it goes and it's a cemetery. It's like a fucking graveyard.
Yeah. And it just so happens that the first grave on the left from like the entrance to the cemetery is Harry Bailey, his brother. And he's like, but Harry was in the war. And Clarence is like, Harry didn't serve in the war because you weren't there to save Harry.
when he fell through the ice. He died when he was 9.
Oh,
So he died.
shit.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
And then it's like, yeah. And he,
you want to know what I
And
find
then he's like,
hard to
oh, and then he's
believe?
like,
I find
what?
it hard to believe that all these scenarios still happened even though he wasn't born, you know? Like, would Harry go play on the ice by himself? Maybe, but maybe not.
that's the, you could we could pull on the strings and
Hypothesize on that.
open up the holes in this plot, but just, it's okay.
Fine.
I mean, my counter argument would be that there were other kids there and that
Right.
Harry would still have been there with the other kids.
Yeah. But I just love the line. He's like, that's a lie. Harry barely went to war. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He saved the lives of every man on that transport.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
it.
Clarence is like, every man on that transport died because Harry wasn't there to save them because you didn't save Harry.
I know,
And
I
it's
love
like-
it.
That's a bit much.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
It's a bit much.
But then he's like, I got to go see Mary. But he's
Yeah,
like,
that's
and
it.
then
He's
Clarence's
like, where's Mary?
alive.
Yeah,
what
where's
happened to Mary?
It's like, worst of all, she's an old crone.
I
She
was
works at
just
the
about to
library.
say- My favorite part of this movie is like the
That is
worst.
rude.
The
Thanks.
exactly. The worst thing that could happen to Mary is like she's a spinster. She never married. She works at the library.
Yeah. The worst thing is she's a single
Working at the
35-year-old who is intelligent and reads books. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't have those.
That's about the worst thing
Can't
in the
have
world.
those.
Not allowed.
But
so he like goes
Yeah.
and like finds her closing up the library. And he's like, Mary, we have 4 kids. I love
And-
you. We're married. We live together.
She's like shaking her,
Jesus.
Mary, we're together. And
Oh
she's like
my
uglified
God.
40 styles with a pair of glasses.
She
That's
just has like a
Sure.
horrendous pair of glasses and like bushy
Yeah.
eyebrows, which
Yeah.
Bad.
in 2020 are very on
Did the
vogue.
trick.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, she screams at him. And then the crowd like grabs him and he like runs away and fucking Bert, the cop, like literally shoots at him with a gun. Just like,
yeah. Like down
Okay.
the street, and he's just like, get down. Like to
Yeah.
everyone else, he's like, just move out of the way. I'm just gonna fire my gun. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Get down, guys.
exactly. And so he runs back home. Sorry, no, he runs back to the bridge and he's crying and he's just like,
He's like, please,
"Clarence."
God.
He's like, I want to live, Clarence. I
wanna
want to
live.
live.
Yeah.
I want to live. But it starts snowing again.
Sad.
And
Yeah.
Bert shows up and he's like, George, are you okay?
And he's like, don't get away from me, Bert, or I'll sock you again. Because he punched the police officer the last time. And then
did.
he's just like, wait, you know my name? He's like, of course I know your name, George. And he's like, oh, well, Bert.
yeah, they like have a cute little hug, and then he's like, I need to go home. And
Take me
this is
home.
the absolutely iconic.
Oh, his lip is
capital-
bleeding again by this point.
Capital
Come
I. Yeah, his lip
on.
is bleeding
He's
again.
just got dry lips.
Scene of Jimmy Stewart scream acting his way down Main Street of Bedford Falls, where he is just yelling. Like he's like,
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, Bedford Falls!
Oh my
Merry
God.
Christmas, building and loan! Like Merry Christmas movie house, like screaming at every building as he runs down the street home. Throws open the door. He's like, bank examiner, I love you. Like, oh, kids. Like, runs up
Okay.
the stairs, kisses the banister that's broken, hugs his children, is
Mhm.
weeping, goes downstairs, and he's like, Mary's there. She's like, George. And he's like, Mary. And they like
Yep.
make out.
Oh.
And they like move to the Christmas tree.
Sexual.
And meanwhile, there's
Oh,
officials
they
there to
do it
arrest him
on the
because
Yeah, there's like
of the
police
money.
there to arrest him. The bank examiner's there being like, this dude is mafia. Like,
Mm.
shut it down. And then I don't remember who comes in for. Oh, well, Mary does. And Mary's like, George, I have such wonderful news. And then I think Uncle Billy shows up with like a
Yeah.
basket of money. And he's like,
Yeah.
everyone in the town pulled together, George. And we just told them
They
you were in
gave
trouble.
Billy
and everyone
money
gave you money.
again?
I know.
Come
on.
Well, no,
So Billy.
they didn't know Billy lost the money. It's a secret.
Yeah.
He'll take it to his grave.
Oh God.
He'll take it to the grave. So like Billy shows up and then like the whole town piles into the living room and like everyone's crying. I'm crying. Like
Yeah.
there's money being handed around. They're like, everyone wants to help you, George. like Sam Wainwright calls from London and he's like, I'm going to give you $25,000. The bank examiner gives him money. And then Harry shows up in
Where
like
did all
full
these
uniform.
people get fucking money from?
I don't know.
They're poor through the whole movie, and then all of a sudden they've got all
like,
this money.
Right. We lied. We didn't need the loan. We just
All
like
the money in the world.
Have it back.
But then
I'm sorry.
Harry comes in like full uniform and he's like, oh, I was having like lunch with the president, but I told him I had to leave as soon as I got Mary's telegram and I came home. And he's like, and he like raises a cup and he's like, to my big brother George, the richest man in Bedford Falls. And at this point, Molly, watching the film, is full on crying.
Oh, yeah.
Having seen it so many times. And then everyone breaks out into a lovely Old Lang Syne rendition that is also on my Spotify playlist for Christmas. The It's a Wonderful Life, like, grab from the film of Old Lang Syne.
What is that?
And that's It's a One, it truly is a wonderful life.
The very end is very.
Oh,
he
yeah, of course.
He
I forgot
finds
the best part.
He finds Clarence's copy of Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which is like Clarence's
on
favorite
top
book.
of all of the money.
And there's a little note
on top of spaghetti.
It says, "Dear George, remember, no man is a failure who has friends. Thanks for the wings. Love, Clarence."
I forgot it because my vision was blurred from the tears. And then the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree, like, bell rings, and Zuzu, the little, like, the youngest child, is like, look, Daddy, an angel got its wings. And it's Clarence. Clarence got his wings.
Teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
See, that's in Family Guy.
Yes, that is in Family Guy.
I forget what they say, though.
Yeah. And then he looks up and he's like, attaboy, Clarence.
Aww.
And at this point, I'm just sobbing. And I'm like, I love this movie.
And that's the end. Yeah.
And then you get to sit through the credits for the second time.
Yeah, 2 times.
So the poorest man on earth became the richest man. But it took
because
fucking
of his
20
community.
some odd years.
Oh,
yeah,
it
that's
took
true.
like 35.
Why did it take so long? Why didn't people recognize this just a little bit sooner? And why all of a sudden were they like, oh, I guess we need to help him now?
It's true, yeah. They're like, oh, all that money I'd piled up in the backyard there. I guess I should give a little bit that to him, even though I have all this other money from him that I can't give back yet.
But yeah.
Well, it's all tied up in the mortgages in their homes,
It's all tied up in banking.
Finance things.
Financy things. Yeah.
Money.
Math.
Math.
It's all tied up in math.
Like Molly said, it's a beautiful story of like, yes, you can go and travel the world, but really family and community are what's important.
I guess. I don't know. Sounds like a bunch of repressed desires.
It really is. You're just like, fuck, this town is toxic as fuck.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, we need you, George.
You know what? There's multiple ways to interpret the story, I suppose.
There's probably 20.
I suppose.
Probably 20 times the amount of qualified individuals who could take over your spot, but we need you, George.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, dude's got no degree.
Yeah, it just
no
sounds
credentials.
like a lot of...
Is he good at math? We don't know, but he's got to be the one to run the building and loan.
Oh, that's upsetting, man. That's some poor... Yeah. I mean, if he could one day recognize the psychological harm that was thrust upon him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you get to the point where you say, why do we have kids? Maybe there's something wrong.
Do you know what? I never noticed that. I was watching it today when that line came. I was like, that's dark. Like, oh my God, this got dark.
Done. He was so done. He was like, I can't do it anymore.
I mean, that's the thing. Even the pitch is dark because literally the pitch for the movie is like a man on Christmas Eve contemplating suicide.
Yeah, basically.
It's shown that his life had meaning.
Right.
And you could have went one step further, contemplated murder-suicide with his family there. But
that's true.
It's not as far a stretch of the imagination. It's true.
I want to see that version of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, I wonder what the back of the VHS says, Like, what's the summary here? It's like...
It's pretty close to like that, to like Christmas Eve suicide. Is life worth it? Angels.
Maybe. You decide.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So,
Well, yeah. What?
I'm just saying, all of his like wants and dreams were like swapped out for money. Is that what you want to tell people? Is that what you want to teach people?
Basically. Yeah.
Give up on your dreams so that you can lose it all anyways and then get some money back.
I think the real...
But secretly resent everybody still because you didn't get to do what you wanted.
That's the moral. Or the moral is the only way an angel can get its wings is if it helps a white loan shark get back his money.
Yes. But he was a good one.
He's a good loan shark, yes.
He
George
gave
Bailey.
all his money.
It's true. He was a dumb loan shark.
Well, whatever, you guys.
This is the other thing. I'm like, it took him so long to make building and loan profitable or whatever. Like at some point I would have thought the board would step in and be like, maybe we shouldn't have hired the guy without a college education. Like maybe we did make a mistake.
Maybe we should have hired a guy who could hear in both ears.
Okay, Will. All right.
Oh my God. I loved how you described that. Like in his bad ear.
That was
in his bad ear.
Gross. Yeah. And Mary, holy shit. She's got her own fucking.
Well, you know what? Speaking of that scene, Alenka,
talk to me.
How many flirty kids do you give this movie?
I give this movie 20 sexy kids.
Don't say sexy kids.
That's
don't know.
what they are.
Someone's going to like isolate that after listening to this. And,
Am I not allowed? Is this going to get us off the air?
No.
Is anyone on the air anymore? Is that still?
We're all able to just go online and say whatever the fuck we want with no consequences.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, I guess. I'm just saying,
to
if you're going to portray the kids as sexy, I'll give you 20 of them. You know.
Suddenly, It's a Wonderful Life becomes like the new controversial.
Yeah, it's now cuties
but
on
I'm
Netflix.
Saying,
that's what it is.
Cuties. I would say 20 sexy kids out of 25 sexy kids.
Okay.
That's high. I'll take
good.
that.
It's pretty high. It sounds like
kids,
a really fun film to watch because you got the old timey feels. I think that's a big one for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's got a lot of the old timey feels for sure.
Yeah.
And despite him not being like the method actor, he's great. Jimmy Stewart is so good.
Like very entertaining. And what a twist. That is not what I thought this fucking movie was going to be about. And I don't know why, but I just kind of really would probably enjoy watching this guy getting shit on over and over and over again.
I mean, you definitely need to on a level to get through it.
Right.
That is 3/4 of the movie. It's just like, oh shucks, George Bailey didn't get it again.
George Bailey. It's funny you said I would remember his name, but I really don't think I will come tomorrow. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know.
I mean,
I need to eat more walnuts
because I clearly can't remember the plot of the movie that I've seen 1,000 times and watched
you did.
earlier today.
I truly think I have early set on Alzheimer's or something. Some very short-term memory loss. I don't know. It's a wonderful life, though. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
It is.
Soon I'll forget all my pain. Anyway.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Molly.
Oh my gosh.
No,
thank you.
It's been
honestly
a treat. A Christmas treat.
It has been a fucking gingery Christmas treat. Delicious and lovely.
The treat was all mine, I assure you.
Stop.
And if our listeners want to follow you or follow other things associated with you, where can they do that?
I guess probably Instagram if you're really so inclined.
So much. It was so funny. She was like,
yeah. Do not out my Instagram to the public.
I mean, it would just be Mollie.Garret. Mollie with an IE, Garrett with 2 R's, 2 T's.
Whoa.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Holy shit, my fucking laptop's gonna die.
Oh shit.
Perfect timing.
All right. Well, let me get through this thing. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Haven't Seen a Podcast, and on Twitter at haven't_seen_it. You can also go to our website, haven'tseenapodcast.com, where you can see the giant list of movies Alenka hasn't seen. It's really big, really long. We're going to get through them. We promise you.
We promise.
Soon. Yes. And we're doing a holiday movie month. We have one more episode for you. Going to be real exciting. Great movie. Just like this movie. And
just like this one.
Maybe sign on to Instagram and wish Mollie Garret a happy birthday on the comments of this episode.
Yes,
because it's her birthday week.
It is,
and it's Christmas week. So have a great Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays, everyone.
Happy fucking Christmas, you guys.
Exactly.
For sure.
And
And on that note, you guys, make sure your kids always stay sexy. Bye.